Chapter 909. I wonder if the path of lightning calamity will close early during the star field ranking tournament. After leaving the 9 steps, Yi Chunfeng went to the registration area to register for the star field ranking tournament. After registering, he didn't return to the Thunder Dao Heavenly Pavilion to cultivate. Instead, he went to the eastern part of the star field to prepare to enter the path of lightning calamity. Watermark advertisement test. Watermark advertisement test. The path of lightning calamity was one of the 3 forbidden areas of the star field. It was sealed at the peak of the star field and had a total of 9 layers of space. Each layer of space had a different level of lightning calamity test. The lightning calamity on the path of lightning calamity had the charm of heavenly punishment when a monstrous genius broke through. It could temper one's physical body and improve one's comprehension of Tao. It could be said that the most attractive cultivation resource in the entire star field was the path of lightning calamity. It attracted a large number of emperors to come and challenge it. However, because the path of lightning calamity was too special, no matter who it was, they could only challenge it 3 times in their lifetime. After 3 times, even the city lord of Xingluo Sky City would be restrained by the path of lightning calamity and wouldn't be able to challenge it again in their lifetime. In the hundreds of thousands of years of history, there were emperors who didn't believe in heresy. After 3 challenges, they relied on their powerful strength to forcefully tear open the restrictions and continue to challenge it. But in the end, none of them came out on the path of lightning calamity. After a long time, no one dared to break the rules of the path of lightning calamity. Yi Chunfeng came to the teleportation altar at the bottom of the path of lightning calamity. He saw that the 4 teleportation portals of the north, south, east, and west were all guarded by an old man in a hemp robe. His aura was one with the altar, and his face was filled with the marks of time. Around these old men, there were more than a dozen emperors with extraordinary strength sitting cross-legged. Among them, Rentu, who was ranked 3rd among the top 10 and walked the path of body refinement, and Hua Luyu, who had fought with Yi Chunfeng and was almost killed by Yi Chunfeng, were all waiting here. Yi Chunfeng walked to the side of an old man in a hemp robe who was resting with his eyes closed and asked softly, "Elder, I want to challenge the path of lightning calamity?" Everyone can only challenge the path of lightning calamity 3 times in their lifetime. Are you sure you want to challenge it now? The old man in linen robes opened his eyes and glanced at Yi Chunfeng, who seemed to be a half-step emperor. He asked in a hoarse voice. Yes. Yi Chunfeng nodded and said without hesitation. To challenge the path of lightning calamity, you need to pay 5 million points. Furthermore, you can only use your own power on the path of lightning calamity. You are not allowed to borrow any external power, and you are not allowed to take any pills. The linen-robed old man had seen too many genius disciples who overestimated themselves. Seeing that Yi Chunfeng had already made up his mind, he didn't try to persuade him. All right. Yi Chunfeng nodded and paid 5 million points in exchange for a challenge token. Then, he found an empty place and sat down cross-legged to wait. Kid, you must be that He Yen who defeated Overlord Sword and Rahu, right? While Yi Chunfeng was adjusting his breathing and waiting, a deep voice reached his ears. He frowned slightly and opened his eyes. He looked at Butcher, who was sitting not far away and exuding a suffocating pressure from his entire body. Judging from Rentu's aura, it was obvious that he had completely refined the white jade snow ginseng king. Using the king herb that was more than 200,000 years old, he had stimulated the potential of his body and improved his physical strength. What's the matter? Although Rentu's strength was terrifying and he had the terrifying ability to kill enemies above his level, Yi Chunfeng wasn't afraid at all. He transmitted his voice coldly. Kid, I'm very interested in you. Are you interested in being my subordinate? Hearing Yi Chunfeng's cold voice, Rentu frowned slightly. He suppressed the anger in his heart and transmitted his voice. Boring. Yi Chunfeng glanced at the gloomy butcher and slowly closed his eyes, no longer paying any attention to him. Damn it, you better pray that you don't meet me in the star field ranking competition. Otherwise, I'll definitely tear you apart. Rentu didn't expect Yi Chunfeng to be so arrogant and reject him in such a tone. He was furious and muttered in his heart. Time passed by slowly. Yi Chunfeng sat on the ground and waited patiently for more than 14 hours. Finally, it was his turn to challenge the path of lightning calamity. Whoosh! Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and walked to the teleportation array. Through the teleportation array, he entered the path of lightning calamity that was sealed at the top of this space. It was formed by countless array runes and exuded an ancient aura. What mysterious array runes! The array runes that formed the path of lightning calamity definitely came from the Sky Domain's celestial race. Standing at the entrance of the path of lightning calamity, Yi Chunfeng closed his eyes and controlled the power of the God-Eater brain to radiate inside. He sensed the path of lightning calamity and discovered that the array runes that formed the path of lightning calamity were very mysterious and beyond his imagination. Let me experience the wonders of this path of lightning calamity. After saying that, Yi Chunfeng stepped into the path of lightning calamity with even steps and challenged the path of lightning calamity's 9-layer space. Rumble! After entering the path of lightning calamity's first layer space, deafening thunder exploded above Yi Chunfeng's head. Dark red tribulation clouds surged in from all directions and slowly rotated, forming a huge dark red vortex. Streaks of pitch-black lightning serpents surged in the tribulation clouds, wantonly releasing energy. The dark red vortex rotated faster and faster. The energy in the entire space was in complete chaos. A large amount of lightning serpents gathered in the tribulation clouds and drilled out from the center of the vortex. With an indomitable destructive force, they bombarded Yi Chunfeng, who was in the path of lightning calamity. Looking at the path of lightning calamity that was like a wild beast attacking, Yi Chunfeng's expression didn't change at all. He silently stood on the spot and allowed the path of lightning calamity to bombard his body. This path of lightning calamity contains too little Tao intent. It's practically useless to me. Bathed in the path of lightning calamity, Yi Chunfeng's physical body that was comparable to a low-grade Tao artifact didn't suffer any damage. However, the Tao intent contained in the path of lightning calamity was very shallow and couldn't sublimate Yi Chunfeng's comprehension of Tao intent. Break. On the path of lightning calamity, Yi Chunfeng didn't have any worries. He stimulated the power of his 5 major acupoints and brandished his fist that was filled with 40 million kilograms of force to welcome the path of lightning calamity that descended from the sky. When Yi Chunfeng's fist struck the path of lightning calamity, the entire space froze. Immediately after, a series of deafening explosions resounded, causing the entire space to tremble. Subsequently, Yi Chunfeng stepped on the void and constantly brandished his fist to welcome the path of lightning calamity. Under his explosive attacks, the path of lightning calamity was constantly torn apart by him. He approached the rapidly rotating dark red vortex that was releasing endless path of lightning calamity. He saw a fist-sized lightning pearl that was condensed from a large number of formation patterns within the vortex. The first lightning tribulation in the tribulation cloud vortex was formed by this lightning pearl. He took a step forward and a sword diagram suddenly appeared. Yi Chunfeng took a step forward and tore apart the path of lightning calamity. He charged into the layers of path of lightning calamity and approached the lightning pearl that was releasing endless energy. 5 elements Tao intent suppress. Yi Chunfeng didn't directly shatter the lightning pearl. Instead, he released the 5 elements Tao intent and condensed it into a 5 elements Tao intent hand that grabbed the lightning pearl and forcefully suppressed it. Under the suppression of the 5 elements Tao intent that was close to the 8th level, the restless lightning pearl gradually calmed down. In the next moment, Yi Chunfeng rather boldly swallowed the lightning pearl that was suppressed by the 5 elements Tao intent into his stomach. He circulated the divine change of 9 transformations and directly fused the lightning pearl that was releasing endless path of lightning calamity into the chest meridian on his chest and started refining it. After losing the lightning pearl, the dark red tribulation clouds that covered the sky gradually dispersed, and the violent space returned to its calm state. Yi Chunfeng stepped on the sword diagram and stood in midair. He circulated the divine change of 9 transformations and refined it for over 2 hours. He forcefully refined the lightning pearl into his chest meridian, tempering his body and accelerating the transformation of the soul pearl in his chest meridian. If someone witnessed this scene, they would definitely be scared out of their wit. Yi Chunfeng's bold actions were beyond common sense. Break. After his physical body was further tempered, Yi Chunfeng waved his arm. The sharp sword Tao pattern gushed out and directly cut through the first path of lightning calamity space and entered the second path of lightning calamity space to continue the challenge. Mobile reading site, book address. For the convenience of your next reading, you can click on the Collect button at the bottom to record this reading record. You will be able to see it the next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 9-10. Rumble. 2 pitch-black lightning tribulations were like black flood dragons that roared in the sky. They burst out from the swirling tribulation clouds and danced wildly in the air. They bombarded Yi Chunfeng's body with shocking power, causing a metallic sound to ring out. Watermark advertisement test. Watermark advertisement test. Instantly, gorgeous lightning exploded on the surface of Yi Chunfeng's body, forming countless tiny lightning snakes that penetrated Yi Chunfeng's pores and drilled into his body. However, Yi Chunfeng's physical body was extremely strong. In just a breath, his strong physical body crushed the lightning snakes that drilled into his body and absorbed them into his cells. Cultivating in this lightning tribulation path is indeed much better than cultivating in the Thunder Tao Heavenly Pavilion. Feeling the benefits of the lightning tribulation tempering his body, Yi Chunfeng raised the soul-devouring art's circulation speed to the peak. He crazily guided the second stage of lightning tribulation into his body and stepped into the air with sword step. Attracted by the soul-devouring art, the second stage of lightning tribulation that broke out from the swirling tribulation clouds became stronger and stronger. The powerful lightning tribulation destroyed the space around him, causing large amounts of cracks to appear. Facing the crazy attacks of the second stage of lightning tribulation, the smile on Yi Chunfeng's face became wider and wider. He could clearly feel that his physical body was slowly becoming stronger after being baptized by the second stage of lightning tribulation. However, the only flaw was that the Tao intent contained in the second stage of lightning tribulation was still very shallow. It was completely unable to sublimate Yi Chunfeng's comprehension of Tao intent. He endured the second stage of lightning tribulation that was like a black flood dragon and tore through the swirling tribulation clouds. He repeated the same trick and released the 5 elements Tao intent to forcefully suppress the 2 fist-sized lightning pearls. In about half an incense's time, the 2 5 elements Tao intent giant hands suppressed the 2 lightning pearls and condensed them to the extreme. They were swallowed into his stomach and forcefully refined into his chest meridian. 6 hours later, Yi Chunfeng tore through the second stage of lightning tribulation space and entered the third stage of lightning tribulation space. He continued to receive the baptism of the lightning tribulation, tempering his physical body and transforming the spirit pearls in his chest meridian. Roughly a day later, the imposing Yi Chunfeng refined the 3 lightning beads in the third stage lightning tribulation space. When he entered the fourth stage lightning tribulation space, he could feel that the temperature of the fourth stage lightning tribulation space had increased significantly. Streaks of red light appeared in the ink-black tribulation clouds, as if they were burning with scorching flames. Tribulation of lightning and fire. Yi Chunfeng revealed a faint smile when he felt the power of lightning and fire appear in the tribulation clouds. He waited in silence for the lightning and fire tribulation to descend. Boom! The tribulation cloud that was spinning faster and faster violently trembled. A blazing sun with endless flames broke through the tribulation cloud, and this tribulation cloud was filled with endless tribulation thunder. This tribulation of lightning and fire was strong enough to shatter a supreme-grade celestial artifact and kill an ordinary emperor. However, Yi Chunfeng's physical body was too strong. He didn't use any of his Tao insight. He relied on his powerful physical body to accept the baptism of the tribulation of thunder and fire. This lightning tribulation path is indeed mysterious. The lightning tribulation formed by this array pattern is almost half the power of a true heavenly punishment. Yi Chunfeng closed his eyes tightly and controlled the God-Eater brain to quickly deduce the Tao insights contained in the tribulation of lightning and fire. He also summoned the sword soul hidden in his mind to accept the baptism of the tribulation of thunder and fire and transform. After more than 2 hours, Yi Chunfeng, who had gained some superficial Tao insights, waved his arm. The sword soul bathed in the tribulation of lightning and fire directly tore through the tribulation of lightning and fire, breaking a hole in the thick tribulation cloud. Next, Yi Chunfeng stepped on his sword and flew into the sky. He directly entered the tribulation cloud and released the Tao insights of the 5 elements to suppress the 3 lightning bead. Under the suppression of the Tao insights of the 5 elements, the 3 lightning beads gradually lost their power. Yi Chunfeng refined them into his body and continued to fuse them into his Shanzhong meridian. Yi Chunfeng relied on his powerful physical body to constantly refine the heavenly punishment and challenge the lightning tribulation path. Ren Tu, Hua Luoyu, and the others were also tearing apart the space of lightning tribulation to accept the baptism of the lightning tribulation. Ren Tu and Hua Luoyu were challenging the lightning tribulation path for the second time. Moreover, unlike Yi Chunfeng, they did not refine the lightning beads directly. Therefore, their speed in challenging the lightning tribulation path was obviously faster than Yi Chunfeng. While Yi Chunfeng was in the 5th lightning tribulation space, forcibly refining the 3 spiritual beads, the 2 of them had already torn apart the 5th lightning tribulation space and entered the 6th lightning tribulation space. Ren Tu, who had a powerful physical body, relied on his powerful strength to almost exhaust the power of the 4 lightning, fire, wood, and water tribulations. He was about to forcibly tear apart the 6th lightning tribulation and challenge the terrifying 5 elements tribulation. When Ren Tu first entered the lightning tribulation path, he stopped at the 7th lightning tribulation space. He was severely injured by the terrifying 5 elements tribulation and was directly blasted out of the space. This time, after several years of cultivation and refining a white jade snow king ginseng that was more than 200,000 years old, his strength had increased by more than 10 times compared to a few years ago. He was only a hair's breadth away from breaking through to the 4th-class combat emperor realm. Therefore, this time, he wanted to challenge the 8th lightning tribulation space and accept the baptism of the terrifying lightning diagram. He wanted to sublimate his Tao intent and attempt to break through to the 4th-class combat emperor realm in preparation for the upcoming star field ranking tournament. About 8 hours later, Yi Chunfeng completely refined the 3 heavenly tribulation beads into his chest meridian. He tore apart the 5th lightning tribulation space and entered the 6th lightning tribulation space to continue accepting the baptism of the lightning tribulation path. It's already been 2 days. That He Yen is still challenging the lightning tribulation path. Is his strength really that terrifying? Does he already have the qualifications to challenge the star field's top 10? When Yi Chunfeng defeated Overlord Sword, Yi Chunfeng became famous and many people knew about him. Therefore, when he challenged the lightning tribulation path, he attracted the attention of many people. Some busybodies even made bets on how long Yi Chunfeng could last. However, 2 days had passed and Yi Chunfeng was still challenging the lightning tribulation path. This made many people uneasy. Is that He Yen really only at the half-step combat beast emperor realm? Many people doubted his strength. After all, in the long river of history, no one could be so monstrous. A half-step combat beast emperor could challenge the higher-level space of the lightning tribulation path. Refine. Yi Chunfeng bathed in the lightning, fire, wood, and water tribulations. He controlled the God-Eater brain to deduce for more than 6 hours. He felt that he couldn't gain a deeper understanding of the Tao intent in the 6th lightning tribulation path. He tore apart the tribulations that descended from the sky and entered the tribulation cloud. He suppressed the 4 heavenly tribulation beads and forcefully refined them. At this time, Overlord Sword and Hua Luoyu entered the 7th lightning tribulation space and were undergoing the baptism of the 5 elements tribulation. Although the might of the 5 elements tribulation in the lightning tribulation path was far inferior to the 5 elements heavenly punishment formed by the laws of heaven and earth, Butcher and Hua Luoyu had expended a great deal of energy on their way to the 7th stage lightning tribulation space. Especially Hua Luoyu, she was injured. However, when she challenged the 5 elements tribulation, she gained a lot and greatly improved her understanding of the Tao intent. In the end, she relied on her extraordinary willpower and strength to shatter the 5 elements tribulation path and pass through the 7th lightning tribulation space. Just as she gritted her teeth and tore through the 7th lightning tribulation space and entered the 8th lightning tribulation space to challenge the lightning Tao diagram, the powerful lightning Tao diagram that was filled with profound lightning Tao patterns only launched a round of attacks and blasted her out of the lightning tribulation space, ending the challenge. At the same time, a few people entered the lightning tribulation path and challenged the Tao intent heavenly tribulation path. Among them, the first and second of the star field's top 10 experts, Qiangu Qiu and Pejun, were among them. Mobile reading home, book address. To make it easier for you to read this book next time, you can click on the Save button at the bottom to record this book. You will see it the next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 9-11. The power of this 5 elements tribulation is obviously weaker than the 5 elements punishment I attracted when I tried to break through to the Battle Beast Emperor realm. Watermark Advertisement Test. Watermark Advertisement Test. Bathed in the 5 elements tribulation and constantly attacked by the power of the 5 elements, Yi Chunfeng felt a little pressure. He raised the deduction speed of the God-Eater brain to the peak and quickly understood the meaning of the 5 elements tribulation. With the help of the God-Eater brain, Yi Chunfeng had a deeper understanding of the 5 elements Tao. Finally, with the help of the God-Eater brain, Yi Chunfeng comprehended the 5 elements tribulation for more than 8 hours and raised his comprehension of the 5 elements Tao to the 7th heavenly layer. The sword soul that was constantly being baptized by the 5 elements tribulation also became more condensed, and the sword power it contained slowly increased. Phew, I finally raised the 5 elements Tao to the 7th heavenly layer. Yi Chunfeng let out a long sigh of relief and opened his eyes that were like lightning. He looked at the tribulation cloud that was emitting 5-colored divine light. Sword soul break. With a thought, Yi Chunfeng's sword soul, which contained 100 sword Tao patterns, rushed up and erupted with earth-shattering sword power. It directly merged together and tore apart the 5 elements tribulation that was violently attacking him, revealing the 5 pearls of tribulation of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Locking his eyes on the 5 pearls of tribulation, Yi Chunfeng flew over with the sword steps. He released the 5 elements Tao that had just been raised to the 7th heavenly layer and condensed a giant hand to grab the 5 pearls of tribulation. Under the attack of the 5 elements Tao, the 5 pearls of tribulation immediately released a terrifying power of tribulation to attack, tearing apart the 5 elements hand and not giving Yi Chenfeng a chance to suppress it. Heavenly Tao suppress. Feeling that the 5 elements Tao could not suppress the 5 pearls of tribulation, 20 Tao patterns of heaven appeared on Yi Chenfeng's body and continued to suppress the 5 pearls of tribulation. The heavenly Tao was the foundation of all Taos. Under the suppression of the heavenly Tao, the energy released by the 5 pearls of tribulation became weaker and weaker. In the end, they were suppressed by Yi Chenfeng's 2 Tao. After suppressing the 5 pearls of heavenly tribulation, Yi Chenfeng condensed them to the extreme and continued to fuse them into his Shanzhong acupoint to temper his body. The energy contained in the pearls of heavenly tribulation was very wonderful. The spiritual pearl in the Shanzhong acupoint had fused with a large number of pearls of heavenly tribulation and was constantly transforming. It was only a step away from transforming into a true spiritual pearl. After another day or so, the 5 pearls of heavenly tribulation had completely fused into his Shanzhong acupoint. Yi Chenfeng did not hesitate. He tore open the spatial wall and entered the 8th level thunder tribulation space to challenge the thunder diagram. At the same time, Ren-Tu unleashed his greatest potential to resist the attacks of the thunder diagram. Although he was in a very bad situation right now and had been blasted into a bloody mess by the terrifying thunder diagram, his comprehension of Tao insight had obviously increased as he challenged the thunder diagram. His strength was slowly increasing as well. Heavenly Demon True Body. In order to shatter the lightning diagram and challenge the final 9 stages of the heavenly tribulation, Butcher, who was covered in wounds and dripping with blood, used his final trump card. He transformed into a terrifying heavenly demon and raised his strength to the maximum, raising his physical defense to the level of a pseudo-Tao treasure. Heaven's slaughtering art. After transforming, Butcher unleashed his Tao insight to the extreme. He unleashed a terrifyingly powerful Tao technique and ferociously attacked the thunder diagram. However, the thunder diagram was too powerful. Butcher, who had unleashed his greatest strength, attacked for more than 6 hours without holding back. Gradually, his body, which was comparable to a pseudo-Tao treasure, was filled with cracks. However, in the midst of the intense attacks, mysterious Tao patterns still emerged from the cracked thunder diagram and were imprinted on Butcher's body. In order to imprint more precious Tao patterns and break through to the 4th-grade Beast Emperor realm with all his might, Butcher continuously unleashed his body's potential and attacked with all his might. In the end, Butcher persisted for another 30 minutes before he gradually could not withstand the endless thunder Tao patterns. He was blasted out of the heavenly tribulation path by the terrifying thunder diagram and ended the challenge. Although Butcher was stopped at the 8th level space of the heavenly tribulation path, he still gained a lot from the baptism of the thunder diagram. Dozens of Tao patterns were imprinted on his body. Once he could fully comprehend the Tao patterns imprinted on his body, his comprehension of Tao insight would rise to an extremely high level. His strength would also increase significantly. Butcher, are you alright? Did you make it to the 9-stage heavenly tribulation path? Hua Luoyu, who had been waiting at the teleportation altar, walked over and asked with concern when she saw Butcher covered in blood and heavily injured but unable to conceal the joy in his eyes. Although I did not make it to the 9-stage heavenly tribulation path, I fused with many mysterious Tao patterns when I cracked the thunder diagram. I think I should have a chance to break through to the 4th-grade Beast Emperor realm before the ranking competition. The pale-faced Butcher let out a shaky breath and said in a deep voice, "That's right, where is that He Yen? Where did he go? He dared to reject me. I will make sure he can't stay in the star domain." According to them, that He Yen is still on the heavenly tribulation path and has yet to come out. Hua Luoyu bit her lower lip lightly and said with a complicated tone, "What? He is still on the heavenly tribulation path?" Butcher raised his eyebrows and said in disbelief, "Impossible. How can he be on the heavenly tribulation path longer than me?" Butcher, I'm afraid you and I have underestimated this Heiyan. This person has hidden himself very well. I'm afraid he will be a dark horse in this star domain ranking competition. Hualuoyu said, That's right. When we were breaking through the heavenly tribulation path, Qinguqiu, Pejun and the others also entered the heavenly tribulation path. If you want to replace them, the most important thing right now is to break through to the 4th grade Beast Emperor realm. Let's go back to the Thunder Dao Heavenly Pavilion. When I break through to the 4th grade Beast Emperor realm, let's see who will be my opponent. After saying that, the gloomy butcher gave up on finding trouble with Yi Chenfeng and left the teleportation altar with Hualu. He returned to the Thunder Dao Heavenly Pavilion and went into seclusion to comprehend the Dao patterns engraved on his body and break through to the 4th grade Beast Emperor realm with all his might. Not bad, not bad. The Thunder diagram condensed from the 8-stage space of the Heavenly Tribulation Path almost has the charm of a true Dao diagram. When Yi Chenfeng saw the Thunder Dao diagram breaking through the scarlet tribulation clouds and charging towards him, he was not shocked. Instead, he was delighted. He quickly executed the golden body incantation, covering the surface of his body with a defensive golden light and raising his body to the level of a medial-grade Dao artifact. Come on! Yi Chenfeng roared and released a powerful force. Like a moving meteor, he collided with the thunder diagram descending from the sky. Boom! Yi Chenfeng's body collided with the thunder diagram. A large amount of thunder Dao patterns leaked out from the Dao diagram, instantly engulfing him and attacking his body. However, Yi Chenfeng's body was too strong. The thunder Dao patterns could not hurt his body at all. Relying on his strong body's defense to withstand the thunder diagram's attack, Yi Chenfeng suddenly made his move. He deduced the 5 elements Dao intent and the heaven and earth Dao diagram to the extreme. He continuously condensed large hands, square seals, and Dao swords to attack the thunder diagram, forcibly tearing it apart. The sword soul also attacked ferociously under his control. As Yi Chenfeng fought more and more valiantly, he kept tearing apart the thunder diagram. Multiple array patterns drilled out of the Dao diagram's cracks and were engraved on Yi Chenfeng's body. Not bad, not bad. This thunder tribulation path did not disappoint me. Yi Chenfeng felt that the Dao patterns engraved on his body were extremely mysterious. It should be the Dao intent of the celestial race. He was overjoyed. He endured the thunder diagram's attacks and continued to attack fiercely, fusing with the Dao patterns. On the other 2 thunder tribulations paths, Qinguqiu and Pejun were also challenging the thunder diagram. Although they did not have a powerful body like Yi Chenfeng's, their foundation was extraordinary. Their strength was even more terrifying. They continuously tore apart the thunder Dao patterns and the Dao diagram. It had been many years since anyone had set foot on the 9-stage thunder tribulation path and challenged the ultimate Dao diagram. Mobile reading site, book address. To make it easier for you to read next time, you can click on the save button below to record this reading record. You will see it the next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 9-12. 2 Extreme Daos of Life and Death. Yi Chenfeng relied on his powerful physique to attack the Dao diagram for more than 6 hours, causing cracks to appear all over the Dao diagram. Sensing that there were no more Dao patterns flowing out from the Dao diagram, Yi Chenfeng immediately pushed his life and death Dao intent to the extreme and unleashed the power of the 2 extremes of life and death. 8 layers of life and death Dao patterns surged out and formed a Dao disk of life and death. With endless destructive power, it slammed into the shattered Dao diagram. Watermark advertisement test gotcha. The Dao diagram couldn't withstand the 2 extreme Daos of life and death, and cracking sounds rang out continuously. The Dao patterns that multiplied the Dao diagram quickly disintegrated. Sword soul break. Under the control of Yi Qinfeng's will, the sword spirit turned into an invincible sword. It split the shattered Thunder Dao diagram in half, tearing it apart. 3 great Dao intents refine. As the Dao diagram shattered, the Dao intents of 5 elements, life and death, and heaven and earth gushed out from Yi Qinfeng's body and sealed the broken Dao diagram, refining it and fusing it into his Shanzhong meridian. After fusing with the Dao diagram's energy, the spiritual pearl in his Shanzhong meridian finally completed its final transformation and transformed into a true spiritual pearl. After condensing the third true spirit pearl, Yi Qinfeng cultivated his true spirit body to the third layer. His physical body's strength had reached 45 million jin. His physical body's strength had surpassed that of a low-grade Dao artifact, reaching the level of a mid-grade Dao artifact. Break! Yi Qinfeng roared, and all his bones and tendons rang out. The 45 million jin burst out and broke through the tough spatial wall, entering the final stage of the lightning tribulation path. At the same time, Qiangu Qiu and Pe Jun also broke through the Dao diagram and entered the 9-stage lightning tribulation path. However, they weren't as monstrous as Yi Qinfeng, who directly refined the power of the tribulation. Therefore, their gains were far less than Yi Qinfeng's. When the 3 of them entered the 9-stage lightning tribulation path, a strange phenomenon appeared above the teleportation altar. Countless forbidden runes appeared in the dark void and dyed the entire space dark red. Yes, someone has reached the 9-stage lightning tribulation path and triggered a phenomenon. The 4 linen-robed elders guarding the teleportation altar opened their eyes at the same time. When they saw the strange phenomenon in the sky, their calm faces revealed shock. The 4 of them weren't the only ones who were shocked. Everyone else on the teleportation altar was shocked as well. They stared at the strange phenomenon in the sky in a daze. Close to 100 years have passed. Finally, someone has made it to the 9th stage of the heavenly tribulation. But who will this person be? Looking at the strange phenomenon in the sky, the 4 linen-robed old men muttered to themselves. However, what they did not know was that it was not one person who had entered the 9-stage lightning tribulation, but 3. What terrifying power! The ultimate Dao diagram, the final test of the tribulation lightning path, is truly not simple. Its power surpasses that of ordinary Dao diagrams. As Yi Qinfeng looked at the ultimate Dao diagram that covered dozens of miles and had tens of thousands of Dao patterns, its might shook the heavens. Even with Yi Qinfeng's strength, he felt boundless pressure and found it difficult to breathe. Rumble! When Yi Qinfeng stared at the ultimate Dao diagram that shrouded the void, an earth-shattering explosion sounded from the ultimate Dao diagram. The huge Dao diagram drove the power of heaven and earth to revolve. Countless Dao patterns appeared in the Dao diagram, releasing a murderous force. When the entire void fell into chaos and a terrifying hurricane swept over Yi Qinfeng, the tens of thousands of Dao patterns that appeared in the ultimate Dao diagram fell together, tearing apart the chaotic void and bombarding Yi Qinfeng. Dao Intent Square Seal. Facing the attack of the ultimate Dao diagram, Yi Qinfeng did not dare to be careless. Life and Death Dao Intent, Heaven and Earth Dao Intent, and Life and Death Dao Intent gushed out, transforming into a square seal condensed from Dao Intent. It carried the power of the great Dao and collided with the Dao patterns descending from the sky. Boom! When the 2 powerful forces collided, the Dao Intent square seal condensed by Yi Qinfeng was immediately filled with cracks. A large number of offensive Dao patterns passed through the cracks of the square seal and attacked Yi Qinfeng. Power of the Heavenly Dao, Shatter. When Yi Qinfeng used the power of the Heavenly Dao to tear apart the attacking array patterns, he suddenly felt his soul tremble. A strange soul force drilled into his soul sea and directly attacked his soul, causing his reaction to slow down. In the next moment, endless array patterns came crashing down, directly engulfing Yi Qinfeng and crazily destroying his body. If Yi Chunfeng had not cultivated his true spirit body to the third level and his physical body was comparable to a mid-grade Dao artifact, this attack would have made him lose his combat strength and blasted out the path of thunder tribulation. Golden Body Secrets. Yi Chunfeng immediately used the golden body secrets to cover his body with a layer of defensive golden light, increasing the defensive power of his physical body and resisting the attacking array patterns. Sword Soul, break for me. Yi Chunfeng fused the sword soul into his right arm and used his hand as a sword. He slashed at the void, interweaving sword lights like mercury that constantly tore apart the attacking array patterns. When Yi Chunfeng used the power of the sword soul to attack fiercely, the ultimate Dao diagram spun faster and faster, releasing a tidal wave of attacking Dao patterns that continued to bombard Yi Chunfeng, putting him under immense pressure. Dragon Bloodline Burn. The power of the ultimate Dao diagram exceeded Yi Chunfeng's imagination. He used the God-Eater brain to restrain the soul attack hidden in the thousands of Dao patterns. He burned his dragon bloodline and transformed into a beast soul form, increasing his strength and forcibly tearing apart the thousands of Dao patterns. Only by tearing apart the Dao patterns that were devouring him and breaking the ultimate Dao diagram would he have a chance to pass the ultimate test of the path of thunder tribulation and obtain a large number of rewards. Yi Chunfeng encountered great trouble when challenging the ultimate Dao diagram. Qingu Qiu and Pejun were also facing great danger, constantly exposing powerful trump cards to resist the attacks of the ultimate Dao diagram. Although both of them had soul treasures, the soul attack hidden in the thousands of Dao patterns was extremely powerful, causing them great trouble. Under the assault of the soul attack, Qingu Qiu and Pejun were unable to display their full strength. Moreover, they didn't have a freakish physical body like Yi Chunfeng's, so their injuries became more and more serious. Bloodline Burn. Unable to withstand the attacks of the ultimate Dao diagram, the blood-soaked defeating armies ignited all of his blood vessels. He transformed into a star covered in ancient runes. With astonishing power, he shattered the tens of thousands of Dao runes attacking him and slammed into the ultimate Dao diagram that spanned several miles. Boom! Gu Fanxing slammed into the ultimate Dao diagram, setting off endless waves. The terrifying power forcibly cracked the ultimate Dao diagram, and several profound Dao patterns flew out of the cracks and merged into Pejun's body. The ultimate Dao diagram was shattered by Pejun's all-out attack, but after that attack, his body was severely weakened, and he was unable to launch a second attack. In the end, he was blasted out of the path of lightning tribulation by the thousands of Dao patterns, ending the challenge. After Pejun failed to challenge the ultimate Dao diagram, Yi Chunfeng and Qingu Qiu bathed in the thousands of Dao patterns and attacked with all their might. However, as time passed, Qingu Qiu's energy consumption became more and more obvious, and his injuries became more and more severe. In the end, just like Pejun, he used his most powerful attack and unleashed his greatest trump card. He transformed into a sword that was over 30,000 feet long and split the ultimate Dao diagram in half, obtaining several profound Dao patterns as a reward. However, at this moment, he was unable to defend against the thousands of Dao patterns, and he was blasted out of the ultimate Dao diagram. At this point, Yi Chunfeng was the only one left on the ninefold space of the ultimate Dao diagram. Mobile reading website, book address. To make it easier for you to read this book next time, you can click on the Save button below to record this book. You will be able to see it the next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 9:13. The power of this ultimate Dao diagram is simply too great. There's no limit to its power. It's simply too difficult to break through by force. Watermark Advertisement Test. Watermark Advertisement Test. Yi Chunfeng borrowed the power of the sword spirit to tear apart thousands of Dao patterns. However, The Tao patterns gushing out from the ultimate Tao diagram were like endless tide. Yi Chunfeng attacked fiercely for more than 2 hours before he was gradually suppressed by the surging Tao patterns. He was in a perilous situation. Feeling the soul power in his body being rapidly consumed and the blood dragon scales covering his body damaged, Yi Chunfeng knew that if he delayed any longer, he would be in even more danger. Dragon Heart Fuse. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and fused with the power of the Dragon Heart. He burned his dragon bloodline to the greatest extent and stimulated the dragon power in his body to the limit. True Dragon Transformation. Yi Chunfeng roared and unleashed the strongest power of the dragon in his body. Facing the thousands of Tao patterns, he cast the strongest mystic art he had mastered. His entire body transformed into a mighty true dragon that shook the heavens. He twisted his huge body, tore through the attacking Tao patterns, and crashed into the core of the ultimate Tao diagram. Boom! The ultimate Tao diagram trembled violently under the attack of Yi Chunfeng's true dragon transformation. A large number of cracks spread out at a speed visible to the naked eye. Mysterious Tao patterns flew out of the cracks and fused into Yi Chunfeng's body. After using the true dragon transformation to shatter the ultimate Tao diagram, Yi Chunfeng, Qiangu Qiu, and Jun Pe felt a trace of weakness and was instantly swallowed up by the surging Tao patterns. However, when the Tao patterns shattered the blood dragon scales covering Yi Chunfeng's body, they were unable to injure Yi Chunfeng's body or blast him out of the path of tribulation lightning. Fiend God Bloodline Ignite. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and forcefully stabilized his body that had lost control. After igniting his demonic god bloodline, his crimson body continued to expand as if it was cast from steel. The strength in his body had exceeded 100 million jin, nearing 140 million jin. 1. Yi Chunfeng stepped into the void and a sword diagram appeared beneath his feet. He erupted with terrifying power and shattered the oncoming Tao patterns as he attacked the core of the ultimate Tao diagram with all his strength. 5 elements Tao intent, heaven Tao intent, life and death Tao intent. At the same time Yi Chunfeng erupted with 140 million jin of force. 3 fused Tao intents surged out from his body and evolved into various forms of attacks that bombarded the ultimate Tao diagram with the power of the great Tao. At the same time, the sword soul pushed its Tao of sword to the extreme, manifesting a series of invincible swords that attacked the Tao diagram with murderous intent, intensifying the cracks in the Tao diagram. Under Yi Chunfeng's all-out attack, more and more cracks appeared on the ultimate Tao diagram. But the tens of thousands of powerful Tao patterns were blocked by Yi Chunfeng's body, which was close to a high-grade Tao artifact, and were unable to harm him in the slightest. Heartless Heavenly Tao. After a round of ferocious attacks, 30 heavenly Tao patterns flew out of Yi Chunfeng's body and transformed into a terrifying heavenly might. They howled as they bombarded the center of the ultimate Tao diagram. The terrifying power of the heavenly Tao directly shattered it. Then, Yi Chunfeng controlled the sword soul to stab into the center of the shattered ultimate Tao diagram. It released endless sword Tao patterns and caused the ultimate Tao diagram to collapse. More and more cracks appeared on the ultimate Tao diagram. The energy of the ultimate Tao diagram rapidly gathered and forcefully repaired the cracks. It wanted to shatter the sword soul in the center of the ultimate Tao diagram. But the sword soul's existence was too heaven-defying. No matter how much energy the ultimate Tao diagram gathered, it couldn't shatter it. Extreme Tao of Life and Death. Dark Extreme Tao. Mirage Dragon Water Shadow. As the ultimate Tao diagram attacked the sword soul, Yi Chunfeng constantly used powerful Tao techniques to attack the shrinking ultimate Tao diagram. He used all his strength to shatter it. Finally, Yi Chunfeng spared no effort and ferociously attacked for more than half a day before finally shattering the terrifying ultimate Tao diagram. The moment the ultimate Tao diagram shattered, it turned into a large number of mysterious Tao patterns. Like rivers flowing into the sea, They fused into Yi Chunfeng's flesh and blood. Oh, what's that? Just as Yi Chunfeng was frantically fusing the Tao patterns, he suddenly discovered that an extremely terrifying black heavenly lightning had appeared in the 9-stage lightning tribulation space. It had fluctuations of life, and from the power contained within the black heavenly lightning, it had reached the level of ancient heavenly lightning. It was almost extinct in the entire Duhan continent. Could it be that there are additional rewards for passing the lightning tribulation path? Yi Chunfeng was pleasantly surprised. Ignoring the exhaustion of his body, he stepped on the sword and approached the black ancient heavenly lightning. Rumble! As Yi Chunfeng approached, the black ancient heavenly lightning immediately let out a deafening roar of thunder. It released terrifying lightning that attacked him like dancing black snake. Extreme Tao of life and death. Yi Chunfeng ignored the exhaustion of his body and deduced the Tao of life and death to the limit. He gathered the Tao of life and death into a Tao disc. It released a destructive power that crushed the lightning snakes released by the black ancient heavenly lightning and bombarded the ancient heavenly lightning. Boom! After being attacked by the supreme grade Tao of life and death, the powerful ancient heavenly lightning cracked. However, the ancient heavenly lightning was extremely violent. It ignored the damage and continued to release powerful ancient heavenly lightning to attack Yi Chunfeng. Although the ancient heavenly lightning in front of him was terrifying and its attack power was close to that of a 5th-grade combat beast emperor, it couldn't break Yi Chunfeng's godfiend body, which was comparable to the strongest mid-grade Tao artifact. Relying on his powerful physical body to withstand the ancient heavenly lightning's attack, Yi Chunfeng fused the sword's soul into his arm. With a ferocious sword strike, he directly shattered the ancient heavenly lightning. 5 Elemental Tao Intent, Life and Death Tao Intent, Heaven and Earth Tao Intent Suppress. After the sword's soul split the ancient heavenly lightning, Yi Chunfeng immediately unleashed his 3 Tao intents and controlled them to forcibly suppress the ancient heavenly lightning. Although the ancient heavenly lightning was a reward for the heavenly race's 9-stage lightning tribulation, it was extremely violent and difficult to tame. Yi Chunfeng unleashed his 3 Tao intents to the limit, but he still couldn't suppress it. Yi Chunfeng didn't dare to use the Chaos Divine Wood in the 9-stage lightning tribulation. He could only think of ways to weaken the ancient heavenly lightning's power. Only by exhausting its power would he be able to suppress it. Qiangu Qiu, have you passed all the tests of the 9-stage lightning tribulation? Defeating Armies opened his eyes and asked in a deep voice when he sensed that Qiangu Qiu, who was also heavily injured, had fallen out of the 9-stage lightning tribulation. What does that have to do with you? Qiangu Qiu looked at defeating Armies with hostility and said without a trace of emotion. Qiangu Qiu, you're still as arrogant as ever. I hope you can still be this arrogant after the Stellar Realm ranking competition, defeating Armies replied coldly. Just as the top 2 most powerful beings in the Stellar Realm ranking competition were facing off, an earth-shattering explosion erupted from the 9-stage lightning tribulation, causing the entire teleportation altar to tremor. What's going on? Qiangu Qiu, Pejun, and the others turned to look at the 4 linen-robed old men guarding the altars when they heard the loud explosions. Could it be that someone has shattered the ultimate Tao diagram and passed all the tests of the 9-stage lightning tribulation? One of the linen-robed elders exclaimed. He had been guarding the teleportation altar for countless years and had witnessed someone pass all the tests of the 9-stage lightning tribulation several thousand years ago. What? Qiangu Qiu and Pejun's expressions changed slightly when they heard the old man's words. They couldn't believe that there was someone in the star field who was stronger than them. They hurriedly asked, Elder, do you know who the person who passed all the tests on the path of tribulation lightning is? This person could be the half-step combat beast Emperor Heiyan, or it could be someone else. The 4 linen-robed elders conversed via telepathy. Impossible, there's no way the person who passed all the tests of the 9-stage lightning tribulation could be the half-step combat beast Emperor Heiyan, Qinggu Qiu and defeating armies said in unison. Do you guys think that He Yen is the sword god who left his name on the 9-stage celestial wall in disguise? An emperor said faintly. Sword god. Qinggu Qiu and defeating army's eyes widened as they stared at the chaotic void in silence for a long time. Mobile reading site, book address. To make it easier for you to read this book next time, you can click on the Save button at the bottom to record this book. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 9:14. Time slowly ticked by. Watermark advertisement test. Watermark advertisement test. The news that someone had passed all the tests of the heavenly tribulation had spread throughout the entire star field, attracting a large number of experts to the teleportation altar. Even the proud Qinggu Qiu and Pu Jun did not leave. They wanted to know if the person who had passed all the tests was the sword god who had created history and stood shoulder to shoulder with the Star Emperor. Even Sha Bingyun and Sha Renjie, who had heard the news, appeared immediately and ordered people to seal off the entire teleportation altar. However, after a day had passed, the path of lightning tribulation had already returned to normal. However, Yi Chunfeng, who had passed all the tests, did not appear. This made them suspect that Yi Chunfeng had already left the path of lightning tribulation through other means. He Yen, sword god. Sha Bingyun's expression grew darker and darker as she waited for Yi Chunfeng to appear. Although she didn't want to admit it, she had a feeling that He Yen, who seemed to have passed all the tests of the heavenly tribulation, was most likely the sword god who had fought her before and was related to Star Monarch. If you have the guts, you can hide forever. If you dare to appear, I will make sure you can't escape. Sha Bingyun's eyes flashed fiercely. She immediately deployed experts to seal off the entire teleportation altar. Yi Chunfeng's actions were as expected. He had deduced the Tao will to the extreme, and after spending half a day, he finally exhausted the power of the ancient heavenly lightning and suppressed it. Then, Yi Chunfeng controlled the sword soul and tore open the end of the heavenly tribulation, leaving silently through another path. After leaving the heavenly tribulation, Yi Chunfeng did not appear. Instead, he quickly hid in the universe realm. The reason why he was so careful was because he guessed that his identity had been exposed. If he appeared in public, there was a high chance that an accident would happen. However, he had also thought of a countermeasure. When the star field ranking competition was nearing, he would wait for an opportunity to suppress someone, take their identity token, and take their appearance to participate in the ranking competition. No matter what, he had to see what was so special about the most mysterious 9 levels of the heavenly tribulation in Xingluo Heavenly City. Extreme ancient heavenly lightning, merge. With a thought, Yi Chunfeng controlled the Chaos Divine Tree to devour the extreme ancient heavenly lightning and black ancient heavenly lightning into the tree. Using the Chaos Divine Tree's innate strength, he forcefully fused them together. Both the extreme ancient heavenly lightning and the black ancient heavenly lightning had reached the limit of the ancient heavenly lightning. If they merged, it was very likely that they would evolve into the holy lightning that could only be born in the heaven region. And once the holy lightning was born, Yi Chunfeng would have another powerful trump card. While the ancient heavenly lightning and black ancient heavenly lightning were slowly fusing in the chaos divine wood, Yi Chunfeng was sitting cross-legged in the universe realm. He raised the God-Eater brain's deduction speed to the limit, comprehending the large number of Tao patterns that were engraved in his body and increasing his comprehension of Tao intent. Although Yi Chunfeng's body had fused many Tao patterns, these Tao patterns were very complicated. Since Yi Chunfeng had no intention of comprehending a new Tao intent, he forcefully fused the useless Tao patterns into his body to increase the power of his body. At the same time, Qinggu Qiu and Pu Jun lost their patience when Yi Chunfeng did not appear. They left the teleportation altar and returned to the Lightning Tao Heavenly Pavilion. They comprehended the Tao intent and increased their strength, so that they could prepare for the upcoming Star Field ranking tournament. City Lord, that He Yen seemed to have disappeared during the lightning calamity. Unable to wait for Yi Chunfeng, Xiaorenjie went to Xia Bingyun's courtyard and told him about the fruitless search. There's no need to search anymore. Xia Bingyun waved her hand and said, I believe that he will appear during the Star Field ranking tournament. City Lord, do you think that He Yen is the sword god that left his name on the Xingluo heavenly wall? Xiaorenjie frowned and questioned. That He Yen did not appear for a long time. It is enough to prove that he left through other means. From this point of view, he should have passed all the tests on the lightning calamity. Even Qingu Qiu and Pu Jun could not pass the lightning calamity, but he did. Is his identity that hard to guess? Xia Bingyun said in a low voice. If he is really the sword god, then Qingu Qiu, Pu Jun, and Ren Tu will not be able to stop him in the Star Field ranking tournament. If he is allowed to ascend to the peak of the heaven rank and receive the baptism of the heavenly Tao, will there be any unforeseen circumstances? Xiaorenjie said worriedly. Unforeseen circumstances? If there really are unforeseen circumstances, then he will definitely die. Xia Bingyun's eyes flashed with killing intent as she thought about the secret of the 9th stage, heavenly tribulation. Heaven and earth Tao will, 7th heaven. Illusion Tao will, 8th heaven. Yi Chunfeng meditated for 2 days and comprehended a portion of the useful Tao patterns. He raised the heaven and earth Tao will and the illusion Tao will by 1 stage. The power of the sword soul, life and death Tao will, and the 5 elements Tao will were also greatly improved. This Tao will is indeed getting more and more difficult to cultivate to the end. I wonder when I will be able to cultivate the 3 fused Tao will to perfection and condense the powerful Tao diagram. Yi Chunfeng sighed softly and was a little envious of Xia Wendi's innate Tao body. If he also had the innate Tao body, then he would be able to refine the multiplication Tao pattern in his body and break through to the 4th grade combat Beast Emperor realm. Using the universe mirror to sense the outside world, Yi Chunfeng realized that it was deep in the night. He retracted his aura and quietly returned to the star field to look for emperors who were alone and prepared to make a move. Suddenly, 2 screams broke the silence of the night and attracted Yi Chunfeng's attention. 2 emperors, 1 male and 1 female, were killed by a single sword strike in the middle of the night. Blood splattered all over the ground. How dare you snatch what I want? You're courting death. A level 2 beast emperor wearing a black robe and holding a sharp longsword said coldly as he looked at the 2 level 2 beast emperors who were killed by him in 1 strike. Just as he was about to pick up the 2's belongings and leave, his sharp senses suddenly sensed danger approaching. The sharp longsword in his hand quickly shook and instantly intertwined with a sharp sword light and stabbed towards his back. Your reaction is not slow, but it's a pity that your strength is a little weak. A large hand pierced through the void and grabbed the rapidly approaching sword light. It forcefully shattered the sword light and grabbed the extremely sharp sword tip that was at the level of a low-grade Tao artifact. What? Seeing the low-grade Tao artifact being grabbed by a hand and feeling the terrifying soul power coming from the Tao artifact, the black-robed man's expression changed drastically. All the hair on his body stood up and he instinctively wanted to dodge. At this moment, a large hand formed by the Tao intent of the 5 elements descended from the sky and suppressed the void. The terrifying Tao intent forcefully slowed down his dodging speed and forced him to defend with all his strength. However, the Tao intent of the 5 elements was too terrifying. It easily shattered his defense and ruthlessly pressed down on his body. The palm crushed all the bones in his body and pinned him to the ground. No, don't kill me. As long as you're willing to let me go, I'll give you everything I have. Facing an opponent that he could not defeat, the black-robed man was terrified and kept begging for mercy. Do you show mercy when you kill? A voice that sounded like the netherworld was heard. Another large hand of Tao intent pressed down from the void and directly knocked the black-robed man unconscious. In the next moment, under the night sky that was filled with the thick smell of blood, only 2 corpses were left. The unconscious black-robed man had mysteriously disappeared. Mobile reading site, book address. For the convenience of your next reading, you can click on Save at the bottom to record this reading record. You will see it the next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 9:15. The first rays of the morning sun shone brightly in the east. The dark veil of the sky was removed, and a brand new day was welcomed. Watermark Advertisement Test Watermark Advertisement Test Class 4 Combat Beast Emperor Breakthrough. After a few days of cultivation, when the Starfield ranking tournament was about to begin, Butcher, who was under great pressure, managed to fuse all the Tao pattern power in his body and broke through the bottleneck in one go, breaking through to the level 4 Beast Emperor realm. Phew, I finally broke through. Butcher opened his eyes when he felt that his soul power had increased by more than 10 times. His body was covered in lightning, and his muscles were bulging. A wild smile appeared on his cold and arrogant face. Chingu Chiu, Pajun, your positions are about to change. I will let you know who is the main character of this ranking competition. Butcher's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He thought to himself, Hey Yen, you better pray that you don't meet me in the ranking competition. Otherwise, I will crush your head. Butcher had broken through to become a Class 4 Combat Beast Emperor before the ranking competition, but he did not know that Pajun, who had gained more from the lightning calamity, had also broken through. Although Chingu Chiu did not break through, he had refined the Tao patterns in his body and his strength had increased greatly. He was almost at the peak of Class 4 Combat Beast Emperor. He also did not know that Yi Chunfeng, who he wanted to eliminate, had passed all the tests of the lightning calamity. What a powerful restriction. A man wearing a black martial arts suit, with long black hair casually draped over his shoulders, a pair of sunken eyes, a hooked nose, and a long sword made of dragon skin on his back, stood in the ranking competition venue beside the 9-step. He frowned slightly as he looked at the Tao patterns in the air. This man in black was the Starfield expert Yi Chunfeng had transformed into. He was the peak of Class 2 Combat Beast Emperor, Ghost Sword, who had cultivated the way of the sword to an extremely high level. It could be said that Yi Chunfeng was very satisfied with the identity of Ghost Sword. With this identity, he could unleash the power of the sword without any worries. He could even display a third of his strength, which was enough to deal with ordinary opponents. It seems like my identity has really been exposed. Sha Bingyan strengthened the restrictions, wanting to trap me here. Yi Chunfeng felt that the restriction that shrouded the arena was strong enough to trap a level 6 Beast Emperor. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, revealing a cold smile. With the universe realm, he was not afraid even if his identity was exposed. He was looking forward to the biggest secret of Xingluo Sky City, the 9 levels of the Heaven Staircase. With a cold and arrogant expression, Yi Chunfeng walked into the arena. He found an empty corner and sat down. He cleared his mind of distracting thoughts and adjusted his breathing as he waited. Suddenly, an aura as heavy as a mountain appeared in the arena. Yi Chunfeng opened his eyes slightly and saw the burly butcher, who looked like an invincible god of war, appear in the arena. He wore a purple gold armor and looked like an invincible god of war. A level 4 Beast Emperor. This butcher has indeed broken through after experiencing the baptism of the Thunder Calamity. Looking at the stalwart figure of Butcher with a powerful aura, Yi Chunfeng felt that his strength had increased by more than 10 times compared to a few days ago. He had become even more terrifying. Because Butcher's aura was too strong, many of the emperors near him found it difficult to breathe. Soon, an empty space appeared around Butcher, and no one dared to approach him. Just as Butcher swept his arrogant gaze across the crowd, an incomparably sharp sword aura appeared. It was as if Qinggu Qiu had unsheathed his sword. When Qinggu Qiu's and Rintu's gazes met, sparks flew between them. Butcher felt a piercing pain in his eyes when he saw the sharp light in Qinggu Qiu's eyes. His expression changed slightly as he was shocked by the change in Qinggu Qiu's strength. So strong, just his gaze alone is so terrifying. This year's ranking of the strongest in the star field might change greatly. That's right. Butcher's strength has become even stronger in this Qinggu Qiu. Especially Butcher, he has broken through to the 4th-class Beast Emperor realm. If Pejun's strength hadn't improved significantly, his position would have been taken by Butcher. Looking at the two who were confronting each other, the genius disciples who were hiding in the distance whispered to each other. The strength of these two had greatly shocked the crowd, causing them to feel fear. Just as the atmosphere became stifling due to the appearance of Qinggu Qiu and Butcher, endless starlight suddenly appeared in the arena, illuminating the whole place as if it was daytime. In the next moment, Pejun, with his tall and straight figure bathed in starlight, appeared. However, after Pejun appeared, he acted as if he did not see Qinggu Qiu and Butcher at all. He walked past them casually and arrived at an excellent spot, where he sat on the ground and waited for the ranking competition to begin in silence. Level 4 Beast Emperor Pejun, you have also broken through. Sensing that Pejun's aura was not weaker than his, Butcher narrowed his eyes, revealing a sharp and intense battle intent. Qinggu Qiu also frowned slightly. He took a deep look at Pejun, whose aura had merged with the surrounding space, and walked to the side, ignoring Butcher. As time passed, more and more people registered to participate in the Star Field ranking competition. In addition to Qinggu Qiu, Butcher, and Butcher, there were also experts with extraordinary talents who attracted Yi Qinfeng's attention. The Star Field ranking competition was the highest-level battle in the entire Xingluo Heavenly City. During the ranking competition, cultivators from the 1st to 3rd lightning field could exchange their points for tickets and enter through special channels to witness the competition between Star Field cultivators. Although the tickets for the Star Field ranking competition were ridiculously expensive, with the best spot being worth 1,000,000 points, every time there was a Star Field ranking competition, a situation where even a single ticket was hard to come by, and the price of the tickets for the Star Field ranking competition would skyrocket. Therefore, every time there was a Star Field ranking competition, Xingluo Heavenly City would accumulate a large number of points. However, in order to encourage Star Field experts to participate, Xingluo Heavenly City would reward half of the points to the participants. And what powerful sword and saber intense! Just as Yi Chunfeng sat on the ground and cleared his mind of distracting thoughts and waited in silence, his sharp senses once again detected two extremely powerful sword and saber intents colliding invisibly, and he couldn't help but open his eyes. Saber demon, sword evil, this Star Field's genius disciples are truly numerous. Looking at the two peerless geniuses who had cultivated their saber and sword intents to an extremely high level, Yi Chunfeng, who had forcefully obtained Ghost Sword's soul memories through a soul search, recognized them as the 5th-ranked Saber Demon and the 6th-ranked Sword Evil of the Star Field. After more than 100 Star Field participants had arrived, the Grand Elder of Xingluo Heavenly City, Xiaorenzhe, appeared in the air. He was dressed in a white star-patterned robe, and his hair was as white as snow. His eyes flickered with the light of Tao. "Everyone, quiet down." Xiaorenzhe stood in the air and said in a deep voice, "This year's Star Field ranking tournament is the same as the previous years. There are 16 groups, and only the first place of each group can stand out and enter the 9th level of Heaven rank to participate in the final battle. And this time, other than the large amount of points as rewards, the top 16 will receive even more rewards. The first place will receive a stalk of Heaven and Earth Spirit Grass that is over 200,000 years old. Alright, I announce that the Star Field ranking tournament has officially begun. Everyone, according to your groups, wait for the martial battle. I hope that everyone will be able to perform above their usual standards and obtain good results." As he spoke, a light wall that grew larger and larger flew out from Sharenja's wide sleeve. The light wall had the names of the 128 participants of the Star Field Ranking Tournament engraved on it. According to past results, the top 16 genius disciples of the Star Field would be seated in each group. Because Ghost Sword was very strong, Yi Chunfeng was lucky enough to be assigned to the 10th group. And this group's seated participant was the 10th of the top 10 experts of the Star Field. Bai Ling. Yi Chunfeng glanced at his 7 opponents. His expression didn't change at all. He closed his eyes and rested, waiting for his match. Very quickly, the marvelous Star Field Ranking Tournament began. Mobile reading website, book address. To make it easier for you to read this book next time, you can click on the Save button at the bottom to record this book. You will be able to see it the next time you open your bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 916. The Interstellar Domain Ranking Competition was in full swing. Watermark advertisement test. Watermark advertisement test. In order to obtain a better ranking and earn more points, the interstellar domain geniuses on the stage used all their skills to fight each other. The exciting battles made the spectators very satisfied. However, as his strength increased, Yi Chunfeng's standards became higher and higher. The intense battles on the stage did not interest him in the slightest. He quietly adjusted his breathing and waited for his turn. About an hour later, Yi Chunfeng waited for his match to begin. He opened his eyes and slowly stood up. With a leap, he appeared on the martial arena. Yi Chunfeng's opponent was a fat man with a bald head. He had a smile on his face all the time, and his small eyes were squinted. He looked harmless and had just broken through to become a level 2 beast emperor. Ghost Sword, I know you are stronger than me. Please go easy on me later. Don't go too hard on me. The bald man said with a smile. If you can block 3 of my attacks, you win. Yi Chunfeng put his hands behind his back and looked at the bald man with an indifferent expression as he spoke without a trace of emotion. Really? The bald man's eyes lit up. He was pleasantly surprised. Although the bald man knew he was not as strong as Ghost Sword, he was very confident in his defense. Especially since he had mastered a defensive secret ability that could forcefully increase his fat to the level of a supreme-grade heaven artifact. Ordinary Emperor-level experts would have a hard time breaking through his defense. I will naturally do as I say. Yi Chunfeng nodded indifferently. He took out Ghost Sword's weapon, the Ghost-Killing Sword, which was engraved with a large number of ghost patterns, and lightly rubbed it. Then let's start the competition. The bald man squinted his small eyes. He took a deep breath and performed a secret technique. In an instant, he transformed into his strongest beast soul form. His fat body swelled up, and the defense of his body rose steadily. 1. An ear-piercing sound of a sword rang out. The terrifying sword sound entered the bald man's ears, making him feel as if his eardrums were being pierced. Just as he was forcefully dispelling the reverberating sword hum in his ears and raising the defense of his physical body to the maximum, Yi Chunfeng flicked his wrist and thrusted out a thunderous sword strike, piercing toward his body with astonishing power. Chi! The bald man's protective shield was shattered. His inflated body, which was as tough as black iron, was like a deflated balloon, pierced through by Yi Chunfeng's sword. The powerful sword force caused him to lose control of his body, leaving behind a large amount of blood in the air. He directly fell out of the arena and lost the match. Yi Chunfeng only used one sword strike to defeat the bald man. He didn't stop at all and jumped off the stage. He returned to his original position and continued to close his eyes to adjust his breathing, waiting for his next match. Damn, Ghost Sword's strength has become so strong. Compared to Shen Tuyen, Ghost Sword is no longer on the same level. Yeah, the overall strength of this year's Star Field ranking tournament is too strong. I just don't know who will be able to suppress everyone, reach the peak of heaven rank, and dominate the Star Field. I feel that Changguchyo has the highest possibility. It's hard to say. Originally, Changguchyo was able to suppress Pajun and Rintu because of his superiority in cultivation. But now, Pajun and Rintu have both broken through to level 4 Beast Emperors. So, it's hard to say who will be ranked in this year's Star Field ranking tournament. Right, didn't they say that someone passed all the trials of the lightning calamity? I wonder if that person is here. If that person is here, the Star Field ranking tournament will change even more. The person who passed all the trials of the lightning calamity is called Heiyan. But his name isn't on the light wall, so he might not be here. But I heard that Heiyan is the sword god who left his name in Xingluo's 9-layer space. His talent is comparable to Star Emperor. Is that true? How could it be false? Isn't it easy for a peerless genius like Star Emperor to pass the lightning calamity? Sigh, I really hope that he's here. That way, the Star Field ranking tournament will be even more exciting. Seeing the intense competition, the spectators in the stands were also discussing intensely. And Yi Chunfeng, who had just defeated the fat man in one move, had also become the subject of their discussion. Although the Star Field ranking tournament was where the most outstanding geniuses of Xingluo Sky City gathered, there was still a huge gap in strength between geniuses. The seeded contestants of the 16th group defeated their opponents without much effort. Especially Changguchyo, Pajun, and Rintu's opponents, who directly admitted defeat and gave up. And during this period, Yi Chunfeng made 2 moves and defeated his opponents in a stunning manner, obtaining 3 consecutive victories. Ghost Sword, I didn't think that your strength would grow so much in just a year. Looks like you're only a step away from breaking through to level 3 Beast Emperor. Yi Chunfeng's 4th opponent, Sun Yaohong, who had cultivated the way of the spear to an extremely high level, came from Sun Luo Temple. His body emitted a cold aura, and his strength was at the peak of level 2 Beast Emperor. Don't waste time, make your move. Yi Chunfeng raised the ghost-killing sword high and pointed the tip of the sword at Sun Yaohong, and said without a trace of emotion, "Good, good, good. Then let me have a taste of your brilliant moves." Sun Yaohong's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness. He instantly transformed into his beast soul form, and unleashed the 6-layered spear Dao intent to the extreme, thrusting his spear towards Yi Chunfeng. In order to suppress Yi Chunfeng, Sun Yaohong used his full strength in this attack. The mighty long spear was unstoppable, like a dragon coming out of its cave, causing people to feel fear. Facing the rapidly approaching black spear light, Yi Chunfeng remained expressionless. He shook his wrist, and the sword Dao pattern appeared on the ghost-killing sword. Like a flying swan, he met the incoming attack with his sword. Bang! The 2 Dao artifacts collided, and a deafening sound of collision rang out. Without waiting for Sun Yaohong to continue his attack, Yi Chunfeng slashed out a second time, a third time. The astonishing attacks instantly suppressed Sun Yaohong's attack, and forced him to retreat step by step. Yama Technique, Yama Heavenly Wheel. In order to reverse the situation, Sun Yaohong circulated the Yama Technique to the extreme, and condensed a heavenly wheel that was filled with powerful death intent. It carried an astonishing destructive power, and blasted towards Yi Chunfeng. Sun Yaohong's attack was extremely powerful, and the terrifying Yama technique caused the space to distort. However, Yi Chunfeng, who had a powerful soul spirit, reacted faster. He made a judgment in advance, and relied on his unpredictable speed to dodge the attack of the Yama heavenly wheel, and appeared behind Sun Yaohong. Swish! An ear-piercing sound rang out, and Yi Chunfeng's ghost-killing sword directly tore through Sun Yaohong's soul protection, and injured him. A large amount of blood spurted out from his back. Just as Sun Yaohong endured the intense pain and tried his best to dodge, Yi Chunfeng mysteriously appeared in front of him, and thrust it out 3 times, sealing off the space that Sun Yaohong could dodge, and sent him flying out of the stage, losing the match. After defeating Sun Yaohong, Yi Chunfeng obtained 4 consecutive victories. At this time, the sky gradually darkened, and the first day of the tournament was over. The geniuses stepped on the gradually darkening sky, and returned to their respective training areas. They made use of the time to recover from their injuries, and adjust their condition for the second day of the tournament. Jiang Tian, Flying Snow Demon, Ghost Sword, and Cold Cypress. These 4 people need to be carefully observed, they might be suspicious. Sha Bingyun, who was hiding in the dark and looking for suspicious people, locked onto 4 targets. One of them was Yi Chunfeng, who was disguised as Ghost Sword, but Yi Chunfeng did not know about this. Mobile reading site, book address. For the convenience of your next reading, you can click on the bookmark button below to record your reading record, and you will be able to see it the next time you open your bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 9:17. Early in the morning, a ray of sunlight pierced through the clouds and shrouded Xingluo Sky City. Watermark advertisement test. Watermark advertisement test. Under the morning sun, the second day of the ranking competition began. Yi Chunfeng's 5th opponent was a local genius from Xingluo Sky City. He had cultivated for less than 50 years and had reached level 3 combat beast emperor. He had cultivated his Thunder Dao will to an extremely high level. Sha Yinlei. Ghost Sword, you can stop your winning streak now. Sha Yinlei, who was tall and sturdy and wore a pair of lightning gloves, said with a voice like a muffled drum. His eyes flashed with lightning. Buzz. As soon as Sha Yinlei finished his words, a sharp sword light flashed before his eyes. Yi Chunfeng suddenly drew his sword and stabbed it at Sha Yinlei's throat at a speed that was several times faster than the speed of light. Just as Sha Yinlei sensed danger and wanted to dodge, Yi Chunfeng's eyes flickered with illusory Dao insight. It bewitched Sha Yinlei's soul and caused his reaction to slow down slightly. When Sha Yinlei came back to his senses, the extremely sharp ghost-killing sword pierced through his defensive barrier and stabbed into his neck. A stream of blood flowed down his neck. You can't even dodge my sword. How can you defeat me? Yi Chunfeng pointed his sword at Sha Yinlei's throat and said emotionlessly. Ghost Sword, the competition hasn't started yet. You sneak attacked me. Ghost Sword, who was sweating profusely and had goosebumps all over his body, roared angrily. Alright, I'll give you another chance. I hope you can seize it. Ghost Sword smiled evilly and put away his ghost-killing sword. He stood in the arena proudly and waited for the competition to begin. As the supervisor of the competition announced the start of the competition officially began. In the next moment, a sharp sword light flashed in Sha Yinlei's eyes and stabbed at his throat. Although Sha Yinlei was prepared and dodged in advance, he couldn't help but glance at Yi Chunfeng when he dodged. However, this glance made Sha Yinlei feel like he was in a muddy swamp, and his reaction slowed down. When he forcefully dispelled the invasion of the 8th level illusory Dao insight, the ghost slaughter sword in Yi Chunfeng's hand once again pierced through the defenses of his body and pierced his throat, causing a strand of blood to flow out from the tip of the ghost slaughter sword. What do you have to say now? Yi Chunfeng looked at Sha Yinlei coldly and asked emotionlessly. You! Yi Chunfeng had pointed a sword at his throat twice in front of so many people, which made Sha Yinlei feel extremely humiliated. A terrifying spiritual beast appeared in his body. Sha Yinlei, do you admit defeat? Yi Chunfeng asked coldly. If you want me to admit defeat, of course. As a trusted disciple of Xingluo Sky City, Sha Yinlei wasn't afraid that Yi Chunfeng would kill him. He just wanted to dodge the ghost-killing sword's attack and launch a fierce counterattack. The ghost sword might be wary of Sha Yinlei's identity, but Yi Chunfeng wasn't afraid at all. With a flick of his wrist, the sharp ghost-killing sword pierced Sha Yinlei's throat like a hot knife through butter, and a large amount of blood spurted out. You! Sha Inlay held the blood-stained ghost-killing sword tightly with both hands. His eyes widened as he looked at the cold and emotionless ghost sword. His heart was filled with fear. "I'll ask you one last time. Do you admit defeat?" Yi Chunfeng asked emotionlessly. I admit defeat." Sha Inlay was terrified when he felt the killing intent emitted from Yi Chunfeng's body. He didn't doubt that Yi Chunfeng would kill him if he continued to be stubborn. He admitted defeat in humiliation. Pfft. After Sha Inlay admitted defeat, Yi Chunfeng quickly pulled back the ghost-killing sword. Under Sha Inlay's resentful gaze, he turned around and jumped off the stage. Ruthless. This ghost sword is too ruthless. He didn't even give him face. Is he not afraid of Xingluo Sky City's revenge? However, with the ghost sword's strength, he might be able to defeat the seated contestant, Bai Ling. If he can stand out and show enough battle strength, even Xingluo Sky City will have to think twice before making a move on him. Seeing the cold and emotionless Yi Chunfeng defeating Sha Inlay, many people were shocked by his ruthless methods. Even Sha Bingyun, who was hiding in the dark, was observing Yi Chunfeng. Not long after Yi Chunfeng defeated Sha Inlay, Jiang Tian, Flying Snow Demon, and Han Bai, who were the focus of Sha Bingyun's attention, also defeated their opponents and completed the winning streak. The atmosphere in the entire arena was constantly increasing due to the exciting matches. Intense cheers and screams could be heard incessantly. After waiting for more than 2 hours, Yi Chunfeng finally met his sixth opponent, who was only defeated by Bai Ling. This man took the physique refinement route and had explosive muscles all over his body, making him look like a barbaric dragon. After witnessing Sha Inlay's defeat, the barbaric dragon man immediately transformed into his strongest combat form. He swung a mace that weighed tens of thousands of kilograms and launched a ferocious attack at Yi Chunfeng. He wanted to suppress Yi Chunfeng's offense. "Your strength is not bad, but you have too many flaws." When the barbaric dragon man launched a barrage of attacks, Yi Chunfeng's God-Eater brain in his soul quickly deduced and easily captured the flaws in the barbaric dragon man's attack. Immediately after, 20 sword Dao patterns appeared in Yi Chunfeng's body. They attacked the flaws in the barbaric dragon man's attack with astonishing speed and forcefully interrupted his attack. The two of them exchanged hundreds of moves. The barbaric dragon man, whose attacks were interrupted by the sword Dao patterns, was in a perilous situation. His offense was completely suppressed by Yi Chunfeng. Instant kill sword. Just as the barbaric dragon man was forced to the edge of the stage by Yi Chunfeng's entire body instantly fused with the ghost kill sword and stabbed at the barbaric dragon man's chest with astonishing speed. PFFF. The barbaric dragon man's defense was broken, and the terrifying sword Dao power directly penetrated his body. He fell out of the stage and lost the match. After defeating the barbaric dragon man, Yi Chunfeng didn't waste any time. He jumped off the stage and waited in silence for the final battle between him and Bai Ling. This battle would determine who would be able to advance in the 10th group. The competition was in full swing, and brilliant scenes were constantly appearing, making the spectators in the spectators' stand exhilarated. The final round of the group competition was about to begin. Yi Chunfeng waited in silence for a few matches. Finally, it was his turn to battle with Bai Ling, who had just broken through to the level 3 combat beast emperor and was ranked 10th. Bai Ling was extremely beautiful. Her pretty little face was rosy, and her tender face was like a ripe peach that made people want to love her tenderly. Bai Ling and Hua Luyu were known as the two beauties of the star field, and they had countless suitors. "Ghost Sword, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. I almost don't recognize you." Bai Ling's eyes were curved into the shape of a crescent moon. She looked at Yi Chunfeng, who had a cold expression and was emitting a gloomy aura, and spoke with high fighting spirit. "Make your move, don't waste any more time." Yi Chunfeng raised the ghost kill sword up high and pointed it at Bai Ling as he spoke coldly. How dare you point your sword at me? I won't let you off. Bai Ling glared at him, and a lifelike image of a red-crowned crane appeared on her body. When she fused with her spiritual beast, she instantly transformed into her beast soul form and exploded with astonishing power. She held a soft whip covered in scales in her hand and twisted the air as she launched a fatal attack at Yi Chunfeng. Mobile reading site, book address. To make it easier for you to read this book next time, you can click on the Save button at the bottom to record this book. You will be able to see it the next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 9:18. Ghostly Wind Painted Shadow. Yi Chunfeng's pupils constricted as he imitated the famous ghostly sword Dao skill. He interweaved streaks of chilly ghostly wind and ghostly shadows that twisted towards the silver soft whip and neutralized Bai Ling's attack. Watermark advertisement test. Watermark advertisement test. Light Dao intent, Earth Dao intent, break. Bai Ling cried out delicately as heaven and earth shook violently. The two Dao intents quickly transformed into a square bell that interweaved with innate Dao patterns and shattered the ghostly wind-painted shadow. After the ghostly shadows were shattered, Bai Ling's body flashed and appeared in front of Yi Chunfeng in an extremely light manner. She executed a killer move to attack him. Illusion Dance. Streaks of illusionary Dao patterns split out from her graceful body and interweaved with the dazzling power of illusion to confuse Yi Chunfeng's consciousness and attack his body. Humph! You want to confuse me with a mere fourth-level illusion Dao intent? After being attacked by Bai Ling's illusion dance, Yi Chunfeng revealed a trace of ridicule. He instantly discerned the location of Bai Ling's true body and stabbed out with the ghostly killing sword. Chi. Numerous attacking illusions were pierced through by his sword. The ghostly killing sword pierced towards the northwest like a hot knife through butter, where Bai Ling was hiding. The sword forced her out of the illusion and cut off a strand of her black hair. How did you discover the location of my true body? Bai Ling widened her eyes in disbelief. In such a short period of time, Yi Chunfeng actually discerned her location with a single glance and broke the illusion dance. If it wasn't for her quick reaction, Yi Chunfeng's sword earlier would have been enough to slit her neck and severely injure her body. You can slowly think about it after you lose the competition. Yi Chunfeng didn't waste any more words with Bai Ling and continued to attack her with the ghostly killing sword. In order to end the battle quickly, Yi Chunfeng injected 10 Heaven Dao patterns into the ghostly killing sword, activating over 1,000 offensive array patterns in the ghostly killing sword. He activated the ghostly killing sword's offensive power to the extreme and created a huge pressure on Bai Ling. If you want to defeat me, do so in your next life. Bai Ling's phoenix eyes widened as she channeled a large amount of soul power and Dao intent into her silver whip. She controlled the whip to transform into a silver flood dragon that blocked Yi Chunfeng's attack. However, Yi Chunfeng's attacks were too ferocious. Coupled with the Heaven Dao pattern's amplitude, the silver whip was completely restrained by him. It couldn't deal any damage to Yi Chunfeng at all. Violet Feather Sword Tide. Facing Yi Chunfeng's tidal wave of attacks, Bai Ling unleashed her Light Dao Insight and Earth Dao Insight to the limit. A pair of purple Dao feathers that were almost 10 meters long condensed behind her graceful body. They flapped rapidly and attacked Yi Chunfeng, who was approaching her. Whoosh! Whoosh! An ear-piercing sword cry resounded through the clouds. Sword feathers filled with intense killing intent attacked Yi Chunfeng, wanting to crush his attack and penetrate his body. Supreme Grade Heaven Armor Defend. Yi Chunfeng didn't dare to expose his powerful physical body. With a thought, he put on a set of supreme-grade Heaven Artifact battle armor that he had obtained from killing an enemy earlier to protect his body and defend against Bai Ling's Violet Feather Sword Tide. I want to see how long you can defend against it. Bai Ling continued to deduce the two great Dao intents and raised her Dao intent attacks to suppress Yi Chunfeng's attack. She wanted to severely injure him in one move and secure her victory. Instant kill sword. 60 sword Dao patterns gushed out from Yi Chunfeng's body and gathered in the ghost-killing sword. They intertwined into a lightning-like black sword radiance that instantly attacked Bai Ling. Yi Chunfeng, who was relying on the supreme-grade heaven armor's defense, stabbed out a second time. A third time, streaks of shocking sword radiance shot out rapidly and gathered into a line. They constantly crushed the violet feather sword tide and attacked Bai Ling's body, forcing her to dodge. However, in the instant that she dodged in midair, Yi Chunfeng suddenly appeared under her body. His right hand clamped down on her ankle like a pair of pliers. In the next moment, Yi Chunfeng exploded with power that was beyond what she could withstand. He directly pulled her from midair to the ground. Boom! Bai Ling's delicate body made intimate contact with the ground. A huge tremor sounded and reverberated in all directions. Doesn't that ghost sword know what it means to have tender feelings for the fairer sex? How can he be so ruthless when facing such a beautiful woman? However, that ghost sword's strength is indeed terrifying. He might really be able to defeat Bai Ling and emerge victorious in the 10th group to proceed to the second round of challenges. Yi Chunfeng and Bai Ling's match attracted a lot of attention from the audience. Apart from this match, the match between Blade Demon and Jiang Tian also attracted a lot of attention. Jiang Tian, who was so talented that Sha Bingyan secretly paid attention to him, repeatedly used his powerful trump cards to fight Blade Demon head-on. In an instant, the sword radiance and saber radiance clashed fiercely. Endless rays of light burst out and engulfed the two of them like raging waves. "Ghost sword, I'll kill you!" Suddenly, a furious shout rang out. Bai Ling, who had fallen heavily on the battle arena, opened her small red mouth slightly and spat out a small mountain that was slowly growing in size. It was filled with heavy pressure and suppressed Yi Chunfeng, forcefully interrupting his attack. Taoist Treasure 9 Cloud Mountain. Bai Ling has used her last trump card. It seems like the outcome of this match is about to be decided. Seeing Bai Ling summon her Taoist Treasure Mountain, many people recognized that this mountain was Bai Ling's greatest trump card. She had used this treasure to suppress everyone and become the 10th most powerful person in the star field. Whoosh! Yi Chunfeng's feet flashed and dodged the attack of the 9 Cloud Mountain. He held the ghost-killing sword and continued to attack Bai Ling. In order to suppress Bai Ling, Yi Chunfeng raised his attack speed to the limit. Sword radiance that was faster than the previous one formed a line, annihilating all obstacles. He continuously attacked Bai Ling's body, forcing her to summon back the 9 Cloud Mountain to defend herself. Using the power of the 9 Cloud Mountain, Bai Ling blocked Yi Chunfeng's tidal wave attack. However, Yi Chunfeng's attacks were like a torrential river. In addition, the ghost-killing sword's offensive power was extremely frightening. It still put a lot of pressure on Bai Ling, and it quickly depleted the soul power in her body. 9 Cloud Mountain, crash for me! Enduring the heavy pressure, Bai Ling quickly spat out a mouthful of essence blood at the 9 Heavens Mountain, activating the attacking power of the 9 Heavens Mountain. It advanced courageously, shattering the streaks of fast sword lights, crashing towards Yi Chunfeng. Seeing that 9 Heavens Mountain was about to crash into Yi Chunfeng's body like a hot knife through butter, Yi Chunfeng, who had predicted 9 Heavens Mountain's attack trajectory, quickly dodged. He brushed past 9 Heavens Mountain and dodged to the side, quickly approaching Bai Ling's body. In the next moment, Yi Chunfeng's eyes shot out illusion Dao intent and entered Bai Ling's eyes. Although Bai Ling had also comprehended the illusion Dao intent, the illusion Dao intent she comprehended couldn't be compared to Yi Chunfeng's. Her brain was confused, and her reaction speed was slightly slower. Seizing this fleeting opportunity, Yi Chunfeng raised his sword Dao intent to the 6th heavenly layer and fiercely attacked Bai Ling, shattering her defense and forcing her to the edge of the arena. When Bai Ling came back to her senses and wanted to summon the 9 Cloud Mountain back, Yi Chunfeng suddenly went behind her and grabbed her neck with his right hand that was filled with thousands of kilograms of strength. He suddenly exerted force and pulled her up from the ground like pulling a carrot. With a beautiful shoulder throw, he threw her out of the arena and she lost the mat. He won. That ghost sword really won. But Bai Ling lost unjustly. She was restrained in every way and couldn't unleash her full strength. Looking at Yi Chunfeng, who had defeated Bai Ling and stood out in the 10th group, many people were shocked by his strength, but even more people felt pity for Bai Ling. But they didn't know that in order to avoid exposing his strength, Yi Chunfeng had only used 20% of his strength to defeat Bai Ling. About 4 hours later, all the matches on the second day ended. Other than Bai Ling, who lost to Yi Chunfeng, 2 other seeded contestants were defeated by the Flying Snow Demon and Han Bai, losing the opportunity to challenge the 9th level of the Heaven Staircase. As the seeded contestant of the 16th group, Dao Kuei also successfully advanced and had the qualifications to challenge the 9th level of the Heaven Staircase. The 9th level of the Heaven Staircase, what secrets are hidden there? Yi Chunfeng looked through the layers of restrictions and glanced at the back of the main arena. He was filled with anticipation for tomorrow's challenge. Mobile reading website, book address. For the convenience of your next reading, you can click on the Save button at the bottom to record your reading record. You will be able to see it the next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 9:19. The 9 heavenly steps were the greatest secret of Xingluo Heaven City. It was said that the 9 heavenly steps were a treasure that contained unparalleled godly power. If one could pass the trials of the 9 heavenly steps, they would be able to continuously obtain heavenly steps as reward. Watermark advertisement test. However, because the 9 heavenly steps were too special, only the first 4 heavenly steps would be opened. Only during the Star Field ranking tournament would all 9 heavenly steps be opened. This was also the most important reason why the Star Field ranking tournament attracted the top geniuses of the Star Field to participate. Congratulations to all of you for standing out in your respective groups and obtaining the qualifications to challenge the 9 heavenly steps. The rules of this year's heavenly steps are the same as previous years. The first 4 heavenly steps will require you to undergo the Battle Heaven Spirit test. When you reach the 5th level, the 16 of you will undergo a cruel elimination round where you will fight against each other. Only by defeating your opponent will you have the qualifications to continue. In other words, only one of you will have the qualifications to step onto the 9 heavenly steps and challenge the final trial. As for the final ranking of the Star Field ranking tournament, it will be based on the time you take to challenge the first 4 heavenly steps as well as your battle record. After the challenge, we will give you additional rewards based on your final ranking. Sha Renjie stood outside the 9 layers of heaven-ranked restrictions. As he looked at the row of talented and unruly Yi Chunfeng and the others, he explained the rules of the challenge in detail. However, as he spoke, his eyes unconsciously drifted towards Yi Chunfeng, Flying Snow Demon, and Cold Cypress Bladesman. After seeing their strength, Sha Bingyun and Sha Renjie began to have a trace of suspicion towards their identities. Catching Sha Renjie's gaze, Yi Chunfeng guessed that even though he had intentionally concealed his strength after he defeated Bai Ling, he was still suspected. However, there was no change in his expression. He was calm and unperturbed. "All right," I announce that the second stage of the Star Field ranking tournament, the 9 Heavenly Steps Challenge, has officially begun. After saying that, Sha Renjie summoned an ancient medallion. Using the power of this medallion, he broke through the layers of restrictions outside the 9th step of the Heaven Staircase. He brought Yi Chunfeng and the others to the towering and majestic 9th step of the Heaven Staircase. So high, the 9 steps are so high. Looking up at the 9 heaven steps, Yi Chunfeng discovered that the distance between the heaven steps, which were made of special materials, was 100 feet. Pure heaven-earth spirit chi flowed on the surface of the 9 heaven steps like layers upon layers of waterfalls. It was a very spectacular sight. In addition to the pure world spiritual energy, Yi Chunfeng's powerful soul also sensed an extremely mysterious restriction power in the heaven rank, isolating a large amount of independent space. Judging from the power contained in the layers of restrictions, this restriction technique was definitely passed down from the heaven domain. Whether it was the fighting spirit continent or the Xingluo continent, it was impossible for there to be such a profound inheritance of array formations. The final victor will definitely be me. Butcher clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles cracked. He glanced at Qingu Qiu and Pu Jun out of the corner of his eye. All right, all of you can challenge the 9th level of the heaven stair now. I hope all of you can achieve your desired results, Xiaorenjie announced as he looked at the eager Qingu Qiu, Ren Tu, and the others. So. As soon as Qingu Qiu's voice trailed off, everyone immediately rose into the air and entered the restricted space on the first step of the heaven staircase. They could feel the spatial pressure in the air suddenly increase, and it crashed into their bodies. The power of the heavenly Tao. The power contained in the 9th level of the heaven stair is actually the power of the heavenly Tao. Could it be that the 9th level of the heaven stair is a treasure passed down by the heaven race? After personally feeling the power of the 9th level of the heaven stair resonating with the heavenly Tao that he cultivated, Yi Chunfeng vaguely guessed the origin of the 9th level of the heaven stair. Wang. Just as Yi Chunfeng closed his eyes and silently felt the power of the 9th level of the heaven stair and the spatial pressure of the restriction space, ripples appeared in the space in front of him. A tall and sturdy Zhan Tianling appeared, holding an illusory Tao treasure in his hand. His strength was extraordinary, and his battle intent was monstrous. A rank 1 combat beast emperor. Sensing that the Zhan Tianling in front of him was only a rank 1 combat beast emperor, Yi Chunfeng's lips curled up slightly. Without waiting for him to attack, Yi Chunfeng quickly stabbed out with his sword. Swish! The sound of space being torn apart could be heard. Yi Chunfeng's sword pierced through the Zhan Tianling's head, instantly killing him. The Zhan Tianling disappeared, and an extremely pure power of the heavens gushed out from the Zhan Tianling's broken body. Like a tide, it surged into Yi Chunfeng's body. What pure energy! When this pure energy entered his body, Yi Chunfeng felt all the cells in his body become active. His entire body felt indescribably comfortable. He immediately circulated the soul-devouring art to refine the energy that entered his body. After losing the Zhan Tianling, the restriction on the first level of the heaven stair disappeared. Yi Chunfeng endured the spatial pressure and ascended to the second level of the heaven stair. As the Zhan Tianling of the first level of the heaven stair did not pose any challenge to the group, everyone ascended to the second level of the heaven stair at almost the same time and continued to accept the Zhan Tianling's test. The second level of the heaven stair was a peak rank 1 combat beast emperor. Similarly, it was not a threat to the group. They easily killed the Zhan Tianling and merged with a large amount of pure energy. Almost at the same time, they ascended to the third level of the heaven stair. Through the 4 walls of light, the spectators witnessed Yi Chunfeng and the others instantly killing the Zhan Tianling and ascending to the 9th level of the heaven stair. They were stunned by their strength, and they expressed their opinions, constantly guessing who would have the last laugh. As for Qingu Qiu, who was ranked first in the star field, he was the most popular. A rank 2 combat beast Emperor Zhan Tianling. After ascending to the third level of the heaven stair, other than Qingu Qiu, Pu Jun, Ren Tu, and the others were no longer as calm as they were in the first 2 levels. They fought for dozens or even hundreds of rounds before finally defeating the Zhan Tianling. Yi Chunfeng intentionally hid his strength. He did not instantly kill the Zhan Tianling like Qingu Qiu, Pu Jun, and the others. He tangled with the Zhan Tianling for a while before finally killing it. After obtaining a large amount of pure energy as a reward, he ascended to the 4th level of the Heaven Stair. The 4th level of the Heaven Stair had reached the rank 3 Combat Beast Emperor realm, and its fusion with the power of the 9th level of the Heaven Stair was extremely terrifying. It created a lot of trouble for Dao Kuei and the others. Coupled with the increasingly terrifying spatial pressure, Dao Kuei and the others' attacks were suppressed, and they were surrounded by danger. However, Dao Kuei and the others were also peerless geniuses. They had seen many storms and waves, and they had many powerful trump cards. With the help of these trump cards, they gradually stabilized the situation and finally killed the Zhan Tian Ling Yi Chenfeng, who had suppressed his strength to about 20%, held the ghost-killing sword and fought with the 4th level of the Heaven Stair for hundreds of rounds, splitting the Zhan Tian Ling in half. Immediately, a large amount of pure energy gushed out from the Zhan Tian Ling's broken body, entering Yi Chenfeng's body through his pores. Too strong, the energy obtained from the 9th level of the Heaven Stair is too strong. In just a short period of time, I feel that my strength has increased by almost 10%. The 9th level of the Heaven Stair is indeed worthy of being Xingluo Heaven City's biggest secret. It is indeed unique. Feeling the increase in his strength, Yi Chenfeng was looking forward to the rewards for the next few levels of the Heaven Stair. His body flashed, and he tore through the heavy spatial pressure and entered the 5th level of the Heaven Stair. At the 5th level of the Heaven Stair, there was no longer the Zhan Tian Ling. However, the competition became even more brutal. If everyone wanted to continue climbing the 9th level of the Heaven Stair, they had to defeat a challenger. Yi Chenfeng, Dao Kuei, and the others became the opponents that everyone fought over. In the end, Hua Luoyu was faster and directly broke into the restricted space where Yi Chenfeng was and challenged him. Mobile reading site, book address. For the convenience of your next reading, you can click on the Save button at the bottom to record your reading record. You will be able to see it the next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 920. Why? Do you think I'm a pushover? Yi Chenfeng's lips curled up as he looked at Hua Luoyu. She was wearing a colorful floral dress, and her teeth were as white as jade. She did not have any makeup on her face, but she was devastatingly beautiful and elegant. Watermark advertisement test. Hua Luoyu's red lips parted slightly as she looked at Yi Chenfeng, who had a cold expression and said coldly, "Weaklings are destined to be stepping stones. If you don't want to be hurt, then jump down yourself." You are right. Weaklings can only be stepping stones. However, I'm afraid that stepping stone is not me. You have chosen the wrong opponent. As he spoke, Yi Chenfeng's body exploded with a strong power of the Way of the Sword. A formless sword surged out of his body, riddling the pressure of the space with thousands of holes. Ghost Sword, do you really think that you can challenge me just because you defeated Bai Ling? I will let you know that the difference in strength between the top 10 experts in the star domain is just as great. Hua Luoyu's eyes revealed a sinister look, which destroyed the beauty on her face. She shouted and held the low-grade Dao artifact, Full Moon Scimitar. She tore through the spatial pressure and launched an attack at Yi Chenfeng. Slash. The invisible sword that appeared in Yi Chenfeng's body suddenly condensed and turned into a peerless killing sword. It covered the light in the spatial pressure and slashed at Hua Luoyu with a shocking attack. Bang! When the sword and blade collided, a terrifying Dao intent energy immediately erupted. Layers of energy swept out in all directions like stormy waves, causing dense ripples to appear in the spatial pressure. This Hua Luoyu's talent is indeed extraordinary. After breaking through to the level 3 Combat Beast Emperor realm, her strength has increased by more than 10 times. Her cultivation talent is much stronger than Overlord Jian's. The intense battle allowed Yi Chenfeng to experience Hua Luoyu's strength. He had no choice but to increase his strength to 40% to defend against her tide-like attack. Crescent Moon Dust. In a flash, Hua Luoyu suddenly used her ultimate move. The full moon scimitar in her hand burst out with boundless Tao intent, forming two crescent moon scimitars that were more than 30 meters long. They were like two crescent moons that had fallen to the mortal world as they ruthlessly slashed at Yi Chen-feng. Sword Tao Insight, 8th Heaven. After facing Hua Luoyu's killer move, Yi Chen-feng increased his Sword Tao power again. 80 Sword Tao patterns were fused into the ghost-killing sword. There was a bone-chilling sound as the sword pierced through the two crescent saber arcs. Gotcha! Although the power of Hua Luoyu's ultimate move was terrifying, it could not withstand the might of the 8th layer of Sword Tao. Yi Chen-feng's powerful sword broke through her ultimate move. Yes, the Sword Tao Insight is at the 8th level. You actually cultivated the Sword Tao to such a level. Hua Luoyu raised her eyebrows, revealing a look of shock. She was shocked by Yi Chen-feng's comprehension of the Sword Tao. It seems that I need to be more serious. As she spoke, Hua Luoyu increased the intensity of her attacks. With the full moon scimitar in her hand, she continued to attack Yi Chen-feng. She wanted to rely on her absolute strength to suppress Yi Chen-feng. However, Yi Chen-feng's Sword Tao Insight had reached the 8th layer of Sword Tao Insight. His attack power had reached an extremely terrifying level. He constantly countered Hua Luoyu's attacks and fiercely countered her attacks. As Yi Chen-feng and Hua Luoyu fought fiercely, fierce battles also broke out in the other forbidden spaces. However, Qianguqiu, Pejun, and Butcher's strength was too terrifying. They defeated their opponents without much effort and were the first to reach the 6th step. Following closely behind Qianguqiu, Pejun, and Butcher, the 4th-ranked Yufeng, the 5th-ranked Blade Demon, and the 6th-ranked Sword Demon also defeated their opponents and ascended to the 6th step of the staircase. Now, only the battle between Yi Chen-feng and Hua Luoyu and the battle between Overlord Sword and Han Bai were left on the 5th step. City Lord, it seems that the most likely culprits are Ghost Sword and Cold Cypress Saber. 2 of the 4 suspects, Jiang Tian and Flying Snow Demon, had been defeated one after another. This made Xingluo Heaven City focus on Yi Chen-feng and Han Bai. Xia Bingyun, who was hiding in the dark, took a deep breath and transmitted her voice. Let's wait and see. I'm just afraid that both Ghost Sword and Han Bai will fail. That will make the situation even more complicated. White Lotus. Hua Luoyu lost her patience. She slightly opened her rosy lips, and a blooming white lotus flew out of her mouth. It bloomed with boundless Tao light. Ghost Sword, the battle can end now. After summoning the white lotus, Hua Luoyu immediately controlled her Tao treasure to attack Yi Chen-feng. She wanted to use the Tao treasure's power to defeat Yi Chen-feng. 8th layer Sword Tao break. As the blooming white lotus attacked, Yi Chen-feng once again used the power of his Sword Tao to slash at the white lotus. However, the white lotus controlled by Hua Luoyu was extremely powerful. The sword light, which was fused with 80 Sword Tao patterns, could not be shaken at all. It was shattered by the rapidly spinning white lotus. White lotus kill. After breaking Yi Chen-feng's attack, Hua Luoyu immediately controlled the white lotus to attack Yi Chen-feng. She wanted to deal a fatal blow to him. Ancient Instant Mirror. At the crucial moment, Yi Chen-feng summoned the ancient instant mirror that he had borrowed from the King of Massacre. He used the ancient instant mirror's power to reflect the rapidly approaching White Lotus. Although the Tao intent contained in the White Lotus was terrifying, it was not the Gu Tao treasure. After being attacked by the ancient instant mirror's light, the White Lotus's split white flower shadows were constantly shattered. Even the White Lotus's main body was blasted back several meters by the ancient instant mirror's light. Could this be the Gu Tao treasure? After witnessing the power of the ancient instant mirror's light, Hua Luoyu's heart trembled. Her body flashed slightly and dodged the ancient instant mirror's light attack. The moment Hua Luoyu dodged, Yi Chen-feng closed in on her with astonishing speed. He held the ghost-killing sword and created a large number of sword shadows, which sealed off all her dodging paths. Immediately after, The ancient instant mirror that was floating above Yi Qinfeng's head shot out a dazzling mirror light and blasted onto Hua Luoyu's body. Bang! Hua Luoyu's soul light protection was shattered. The ancient instant mirror's light ruthlessly blasted onto her body and sent her flying. A large amount of blood spurted out from her mouth. Hua Luoyu is injured. She was killed by the ancient mirror summoned by the ghost sword. This ghost sword actually concealed himself so deeply. The ancient mirror that he summoned is probably a Gu Dao treasure. Seeing the scene of Hua Luoyu being injured by the ancient instant mirror, the spectators were in an uproar. As Hua Luoyu spurted out blood and retreated, Yi Qinfeng continued to attack with the ghost-killing sword. He did not give Hua Luoyu any chance to catch her breath. White Lotus, Human Flower Fusion. After being completely suppressed by Yi Qinfeng, Hua Luoyu, whose injuries were worsening, immediately summoned back the White Lotus. She wanted to forcefully fuse with the White Lotus to block Yi Qinfeng's fierce attacks. Ancient Instant Mirror, exterminate! The moment Hua Luoyu fused with the Dao treasure White Lotus, Yi Qinfeng spat out a mouthful of blood essence into the ancient instant mirror. He activated the ancient instant mirror's attack and ferociously attacked Hua Luoyu. After fusing with the White Lotus, Hua Luoyu's attack and defense had greatly increased. However, she still could not block the ancient instant mirror's attack. PFFF. After dozens of ancient instant mirror's attacks, the defense of the White Lotus was shattered. Hua Luoyu left behind a cloud of blood in midair, as she fell from the 5th level of the heaven stage and lost the match. Immediately, a large amount of pure energy appeared on the 5th level of the heaven stage. It was like a warm current that drilled into Yi Qinfeng's body, rapidly increasing his strength. When Yi Qinfeng was fusing with the pure energy, the cold cypress saber that was in danger suddenly attacked with the help of a strange Dao treasure green tree. It injured Overlord's sword and won the final victory. After fusing with a large amount of pure energy, Yi Qinfeng summoned the ancient instant mirror back to his body. He leaped and passed through the spatial restriction, stepping onto the 6th level of the heaven stage. Mobile reading website, book address. To facilitate your next reading, you can click on the Save button at the bottom to record your reading record. You will be able to see it the next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 921. Just as Yi Qinfeng and Han Bai reached the 6th step of the heaven stair, two extremely fast figures broke into the restricted space they were in. Watermark advertisement test. In the next moment, a figure with astonishing speed appeared in front of Yi Qinfeng's eyes. Yu Feng, who was ranked 4th among the top 10 experts in the star field and was known for his speed, had defeated Yi Qinfeng. Han Bai's opponent was even more terrifying. He wore a purple-gold armor and looked like an invincible war god butcher. Ghost Sword, it is indeed beyond my expectations that you can reach the 6th step of the heaven stair. However, your good luck ends here. Yu Feng, who had condensed a pair of lightning wings and wore a pair of wolf fang-like gauntlets, spoke coldly. He ignored the spatial pressure that was pouring down from the sky. Why do you all have so much nonsense to say? Yi Qinfeng said indifferently, if you want to fight, then fight. Why do you have so much nonsense to say? Haha, Ghost Sword, you are much more interesting than before. Yu Feng laughed loudly. His slowly moving lightning wings suddenly flapped violently, creating a lightning hurricane. Like a bolt of lightning that cut through the void, he launched a fierce attack at Yi Qinfeng. Although Yu Feng's strength was inferior to Qin Guqiu, Pajun, and the others, his speed was definitely the fastest in the star field. So fast, Yi Qinfeng only saw a blur before Yu Feng appeared in front of him. Yu Feng's fist, which was filled with the power of lightning, slammed into Yi Qinfeng's chest. Rumble! A series of deafening explosions rang out as the Imperial Wind Fist exploded with an astonishing power of the Way of Thunder, breaking through Yi Qinfeng's soul energy protection and bombarding his physical body. The powerful power of the Way of Thunder forced him to take 3 steps back. I'm not injured. Although Yu Feng had forced Yi Qinfeng back with a punch, his face was filled with shock. He couldn't believe that his punch, which was equipped with a low-grade Dao tool, didn't hurt Yi Qinfeng at all. After a short moment of shock, Imperial Wind continued to attack Yi Qinfeng. He wanted to rely on his absolute speed to suppress him. Facing Imperial Wind's storm-like attacks, Yi Qinfeng closed his eyes. However, the moment he closed his eyes, the power of the God-Eater brain erupted and rapidly deduced Imperial Wind's attack trajectory. Yi Qinfeng's body was pierced through by the shockingly fast Imperial Wind. However, Yi Qinfeng's face did not show any signs of pain. Yes, speed afterimages. Yu Feng revealed a shocked expression. He was shocked that Yi Qinfeng could actually create afterimages to dodge his attack in such a short period of time. I really underestimated you, but I want to see how long you can hide. Yu Feng's pupils shrunk as he locked onto Yi Qinfeng, who had his eyes closed. He continued to attack him at an astonishing speed. His extreme speed left afterimages in the air, dazzling everyone. Whoosh! Just as Imperial Wind's voice fell, Yi Qinfeng suddenly stabbed his sword into the void. The sword that was filled with the 8th layer sword Dao forcefully interrupted Imperial Wind's extreme speed. Imperial Wind raised his brows as the shock in his heart grew. He was shocked that Yi Qinfeng could actually predict his movement trajectory in advance. Could it be a coincidence? After pondering, Imperial Wind continued to flap his lightning wings and raised his speed to the peak. He continued to rely on his absolute speed to attack Yi Qinfeng. Imperial Wind attacked with extreme speed. Yi Qinfeng, who had his eyes closed, quickly attacked the void with his sword. However, the seemingly aimless sword light kept interrupting Imperial Wind's movement, causing him to feel extremely uncomfortable. How is this possible? How did he predict my movement trajectory? The first time might be a coincidence, but every time Yi Qinfeng attacked, he would be able to attack his movement trajectory in advance. This allowed Imperial Wind to be certain that Yi Qinfeng had already captured his movement trajectory. While Imperial Wind was still in shock, Yi Qinfeng flew up and slashed at the void with the Ghost Kill sword in his hand. The shocking sword that was filled with 80 sword Dao patterns slashed at Imperial Wind and forced him to retreat. A deep sword mark was left on the pseudo-Dao artifact battle armor that Imperial Wind was wearing. Oh heavens, am I seeing things? Imperial Wind was actually forced back by Ghost Sword. How did he do it? This Ghost Sword is definitely hiding a huge secret. Otherwise, it would be impossible for his strength to increase to such an extent in just a few years. Not only did the spectators on the spectators' stand feel suspicious, even Sha Bingyun and Sha Renjie, who had been secretly observing, also noticed the problem. There is definitely something wrong with this Ghost Sword. Sha Bingyun's eyes revealed a trace of ruthlessness as she locked onto her target. She secretly increased the spatial restriction and completely sealed the space. She was prepared to capture Ghost Sword and force him to reveal his secret after the ranking competition. Imperial Wind, your strength is only SOSO. Yi Qinfeng looked at Imperial Wind, who had a gloomy expression and an obvious sword mark on his chest. Yi Qinfeng smirked and continued to attack with the Ghost Kill sword. Bloodline Ignition. Sensing that Yi Qinfeng was much harder to deal with than he had imagined, Imperial Wind stopped underestimating him. He instantly ignited his bloodline power and transformed into his beast soul form. A layer of green feathers covered his body. Swish! An ear-piercing sound could be heard as Imperial Wind, who was in his beast soul form, activated the strongest power of his lightning wings. He raised his speed to the limit and drew a streak of light in the air. With a speed that was hard to be seen by the naked eye, he attacked Yi Qinfeng ferociously. When Imperial Wind's speed was raised to the limit, even a level 4 combat beast emperor would find it hard to deal with him. However, with the God-Eater Brain's calculation, Imperial Wind's movement trajectory was completely locked onto by Yi Chenfeng. Yi Chenfeng closed his eyes and dodged while attacking. He was exchanging blows with Imperial Wind with ease. Lightning feathers of wind and thunder. Imperial Wind's fastest speed couldn't do anything to Yi Chenfeng. He raised his lightning Dao to the 8th heavenly layer. A large amount of lightning spread out from his lightning wings and turned into countless lightning feathers. They pierced through the air and attacked Yi Chenfeng. 8th heavenly layer of sword Dao break. Yi Chenfeng didn't dodge the endless lightning feathers. Instead, the 8th heavenly layer of sword Dao surged out of his body. He thrust out his sword, driving the momentum of his sword Dao, and met the lightning feathers that were emitting deafening sounds of thunder. Boom, boom, boom. The two great Dao skills collided with each other, erupting with earth-shattering power. The two Dao intents were like violent tides, fiercely repelling each other. For a moment, the forbidden space fell into chaos. Yi Chenfeng and Imperial Wind fought fiercely. The powerful Qiangu Qiu, Pejun, and Butcher were suppressing their opponents with an overwhelming advantage. They kept worsening their injuries. This was especially true for the Butcher, who was clad in violet gold armor and wielded a gigantic dragon-head saber. His strength was ferocious, and he looked like a killing god. He hacked at the cold cypress saber monster until it spat out blood and was forced to retreat. It was unable to withstand his ferocious attacks. Die! Butcher shouted. The muscles on his arms suddenly expanded. Rolling power poured into the dragon-head broadsword. He gripped the dragon-head broadsword tightly and unleashed an earth-shattering power. He slashed at the cold cypress blade beast. Facing Butcher's dragon-head broadsword shadow, the cold cypress blade beasts immediately spat out the green tree to block it. However, Butcher's attack was too terrifying. The broadsword slashed down and the green tree was sent flying. He was also hit by the remaining power of the dragon-head broadsword. He spat out a large amount of blood in the air and fell down the 6th step. He lost the battle. After defeating the cold cypress blade beasts, a large amount of pure energy of heaven and earth immediately merged into Butcher's body. After absorbing a large amount of energy of heaven and earth, he didn't reach the 7th step first. Clearly, he was still wary of Qiangu Qiu and Pejun's strength. He didn't want to fight with them too early. Not long after Butcher defeated the cold cypress blade beasts, Qiangu Qiu and Pejun attacked one after another. They used their killer moves to defeat Sword Demon and Sword Demon, winning the shocking battle. At this point, only Yi Chenfeng and Imperial Wind were left undecided in the battle of the 6th step. They became the only focus of attention. Mobile reading site, book address. To make it easier for you to read it next time, you can click on the Save button below to record your reading record. You will see it the next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 922. Pejun, who had fused with a large amount of pure natural energy, had an arrogant expression on his face, and held a pair of meteor hammers in his hands. He coldly glanced at Butcher, who did not dare to step onto the 7th step. His body moved, bringing with it endless starlight as he was the first to step onto the 7th step. Watermark advertisement. Test watermark advertisement. Test. The disdain in Qiangu Qiu's eyes deepened. He smiled mockingly at Butcher and followed Pejun to the 7th step. Butcher was enraged when he met their disdainful gazes. He gritted his teeth and said, "Qiangu Qiu, Pejun, you two can be arrogant for a while longer. I'll show you how powerful I am soon." Although Butcher wanted nothing more than to trample Qiangu Qiu and Pejun under his feet, he wanted to reap the benefit. He did not step onto the 7th step as he hoped that Qiangu Qiu and Pejun would fight first. Although Butcher's idea was good, he was at a disadvantage. The seed of being inferior to Qiangu Qiu and Pu Jun had been planted in his heart. Qiangu Qiu, since that coward doesn't dare to come up, let's fight first. Pu Jun, who was glowing with starlight and wielded a pair of meteor hammers, had unfathomable strength. His eyes burned with fighting spirit as he suggested in a deep voice. As you wish. Qiangu Qiu's lips curled up slightly as a shocking sword aura erupted from his body. He held a high-quality mid-grade Dao artifact, the Flying Snow Sword, and directly broke through the forbidden space Pu Jun was in. The two strongest peerless geniuses in the star field, Qiangu Qiu and Pu Jun, were about to fight on the seventh step. Their battle immediately attracted the attention of everyone, and the atmosphere in the stands reached its peak. Although the spectators in the stands knew that their cheers could not be heard, there was still a large number of cultivators who shouted at the top of their lungs, cheering for the person they supported. They all wanted to know who was stronger between Qiangu Qiu and Pu Jun after several years of cultivation. The winner of their battle had a higher chance of reaching the ninth step of the heaven rank and challenging the heaven rank's ultimate test. Just as Qiangu Qiu and Pu Jun launched their attacks at the same time, a sinister smile appeared on Rentu's face. He glanced at Yi Chunfeng and Yu Feng, who were still fighting fiercely. He endured the powerful spatial force and stepped onto the seventh step, waiting for the victor to emerge. From Butcher's point of view, be it Yi Chunfeng or Yu Feng, they were all just foils. With his strength, defeating them would be a piece of cake. Ghost Sword, you are becoming more and more shocking. However, I will definitely be the winner of this battle. You are destined to be the loser. His relentless attacks were fruitless, and Imperial Wind gradually lost his patience. When he relied on his astonishing speed to exchange 8 moves with Yi Chunfeng, intertwining with the storm of destruction, a pearl mixed with the power of wind and thunder shot out of his mouth. It bombarded Yi Chunfeng at close range, instantly swallowing him up. Wind, Thunder Pearl, Imperial Wind is using his final move. It seems like the outcome of this battle is about to be decided. Seeing Yi Chunfeng being swallowed up by the power of wind and thunder released by the Wind Thunder Pearl, almost no one was optimistic about Yi Chunfeng's chances. In their opinion, Ghost Sword was no match for Xingluo Sky City's direct disciple, Imperial Wind. It was only a matter of time before he was defeated. Wind, Thunder Pearl, destroy. Seeing Yi Chunfeng being swallowed up by the boundless power of wind and thunder, Imperial Wind spat 3 mouthfuls of blood essence into the Wind Thunder Pearl. He activated the pearl's power and crazily attacked Yi Chunfeng, wanting to destroy his physical body. Chaos Divine Wood, devour. The power of wind and thunder released by the Wind Thunder Pearl was extremely terrifying. It was enough to destroy pseudo-Dao treasures and split apart ordinary low-grade Dao treasures. However, Yi Chunfeng had cultivated his true spirit body to the 3rd heavenly layer. His physical body was too powerful, comparable to a mid-grade Dao treasure. The power of wind and thunder released by the Wind Thunder Pearl was no threat to him. While he was resisting the power of wind and thunder, he deliberately guided the power of wind and thunder into his body for the Chaos Divine Wood to devour, increasing the fusion speed of the 2 great ancient heavenly thunders. How can this be? Why is his physical body not destroyed? Imperial Wind, who was fully activating the Wind Thunder Pearl, discovered that Yi Chunfeng's supreme grade heaven artifact battle armor was shattered by the Wind Thunder Pearl. However, the terrifying power of wind and thunder couldn't harm Yi Chunfeng's physical body at all. This made him open his eyes wide, revealing an expression as if he had seen a ghost. PFFF. PFFF. In order to severely injure Yi Chunfeng and secure the victory, Imperial Wind continued to spray his essence blood into the Wind Thunder Pearl, increasing the power of the Wind Thunder Pearl. He released endless power of wind and thunder to kill Yi Chunfeng. However, as Imperial Wind spat out 33 mouthfuls of blood essence into the Wind Thunder Pearl without sparing any effort, he exhausted a large amount of his life force. After bombarding Yi Chunfeng for nearly half an incense stick's worth of time, Yi Chunfeng was still completely unharmed. This caused him to reveal an expression of disbelief. All right, the two great ancient heavenly thunders have fused with enough energy. They should be able to complete the transformation soon. When Yi Chunfeng sensed the transformation of the two great ancient heavenly thunders, he suddenly opened his eyes. 80 sword Tao patterns gushed out from his body and converged into a deadly sword that could split the heaven and earth. It tore apart the power of wind and thunder and cleaved at Imperial Wind, who had expended a lot of energy and had a slightly pale face. You are not Ghost Sword. When he saw Yi Chunfeng's indestructible body, a thought flashed through Imperial Wind's mind. This person in front of him wasn't Ghost Sword and might be an impersonator. Imperial Wind had doubts about Yi Chunfeng's identity. Sha Bingyun, who had been observing Yi Chunfeng, and Sha Renjie were basically certain that Ghost Sword, Hei Yen, and that stunning sword god were the same person. He had appeared. Father, we should be able to find the sword god who has a close relationship with the Star Sovereign. The sword god who passed all the trials of the Thunder Calamity and left his name in the Xingluo Heaven's 9th level space. Sha Bingyun took out her communication pearl and sent a message to the old city lord of Xingluo Heaven City, Sha Tianyao, and reported. Very good. Seal the 9th level heaven's staircase. Your mother and I will be there soon. Once he leaves the 9th level heaven's staircase, I will personally capture him. Sha Tianya's aged voice echoed in the communication pearl. No matter who you are, I will make sure you can't escape today. Sha Bingyun's eyes flickered with ruthlessness as she stared at Yi Chunfeng, who was about to launch his counterattack. She swore in her heart. Mystic Underworld Extreme Tao. Since Imperial Wind could see that there was a problem with his identity, Yi Chunfeng guessed that his identity had been exposed. He no longer hid and immediately executed a powerful Tao technique to suppress Imperial Wind. The Illusion Tao Intent, 5 Tao Intent, Life and Death Tao Pattern, and Heaven and Earth Tao Intent merged together and transformed into a long river of mystic underworld extreme Tao energy. It carried the power to destroy everything as it blasted towards Imperial Wind. Sensing the terror of the mystic underworld extreme Tao energy, Imperial Wind instinctively wanted to rely on his speed to dodge. However, Yi Chunfeng had cultivated the Illusion Tao Intent to the 8th level, causing the mystic underworld extreme Tao energy to be filled with powerful illusion energy. It invaded Imperial Wind's soul and caused his reaction to be slightly delayed. He was unable to dodge the attack of the mystic underworld extreme Tao and was ruthlessly blasted away. The inner armor he wore instantly shattered and his chest caved in. A large amount of blood uncontrollably spurted out from his mouth. After heavily injuring Imperial Wind with one strike, Yi Chunfeng stepped on lightning and approached him. When he saw Yi Chunfeng approaching, the heavily injured Imperial Wind immediately wanted to dodge. However, the moment he dodged, a powerful dizziness blasted into his soul sea, causing him to feel extremely dizzy. His extremely fast-moving body had a slight pause. In the next moment, Yi Chunfeng's fist that was filled with Tao intent and 40 million kilograms of force blasted onto his chest. The terrifying power was like an erupting volcano as it blasted him out of the 6th step of the stairway to heaven and lost the competition. Mobile reading website, book address. For the convenience of your next reading, you can click on the save button at the bottom to record this reading record. You will be able to see it the next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 923. He lost. Imperial Wind, who is ranked 4th among the top 10 experts in the star field, lost so thoroughly. When did Ghost Sword become so powerful? That's right. After defeating Imperial Wind, Ghost Sword will replace him and become the 4th strongest expert in the star field. Just thinking about it is scary. Watermark advertisement test. Watermark advertisement test. The audience in the stands had limited knowledge, and did not know that Ghost Sword was Yi Chunfeng in disguise. They were constantly discussing his shocking battle results and method. On the other hand, Overlord Sword and Hua Luoyu felt a sense of familiarity when Yi Chunfeng defeated Imperial Wind. A figure that made them shudder involuntarily appeared in their mind. It can't really be him, right? Overlord Sword and Hua Luoyu looked at each other and muttered in their hearts. After defeating Imperial Wind, a large amount of heaven and earth energy appeared in the forbidden space and merged into Yi Chunfeng's body. It continued to increase his strength and stimulate his potential. It's too pure. I wonder if I can use the heaven and earth energy from the reward to break through the bottleneck and become a level 4 combat emperor if I can pass the heaven and earth energy from the 9th step. After merging with the heaven and earth energy from the 6th step, Yi Chunfeng felt that his strength had increased by more than 10%. He was filled with anticipation for the heaven and earth energy from the 9th step. Yi Chunfeng raised his head slightly and looked at Butcher, who had been waiting for a long time. His body flashed, and like a peerless killing sword, he passed through the crack in the forbidden space and stepped onto the 7th step. Following that, he waved his arm and streaks of sword Dao patterns flowed down like mercury. They split open the space where Butcher was and entered inside. "Kid, you must be that He Yen." Butcher clenched his fists and looked fiercely at Yi Chunfeng, who had greatly exceeded his expectations, as he said in a sinister tone. After breaking through to the level 4 combat emperor realm, Butcher wanted to find trouble with He Yen immediately. However, when he learned that He Yen seemed to have passed all the tests of the lightning calamity and might be the sword god, he was shocked. However, his strength had increased by more than 10 times, which gave Butcher a lot of courage. If the person in front of him was really He Yen, who had passed all the tests of the lightning calamity and was the sword god who left his name on the 9 celestial walls, he would defeat him and gain both fame and fortune. The weak have no right to know who I am. Yi Chunfeng kept the ghost-killing sword back into the universe mirror and summoned the powerful Sky Piercer, a mid-grade Dao artifact. He was prepared to use brute force to defeat his opponent. Sky Piercer? Why does Ghost Sword have a Sky Piercer? Is he He Yen in disguise? The news of Yi Chunfeng using the Sky Piercer to defeat Overlord Sword and Rahu had already spread throughout the star field. Therefore, when many star field disciples saw the Sky Piercer in Yi Chunfeng's hand, they recognized him. It really is him, Overlord Sword said with a gloomy expression. He actually dared to disguise himself and participate in the star field qualifier. He even exposed his identity in public. Isn't he afraid that Xingluo Sky City will suppress him? Since He Yen dared to reveal his identity, he must have something to rely on. I wonder who among the 4 of them will have the last laugh and be qualified to challenge the 9th level of heaven rank. After finding out that Ghost Sword was Yi Chunfeng in disguise, Hua Luoyu felt much better. She was looking forward to the peak battle between the 4 peerless geniuses. "Weakling," Butcher said with a gloomy expression, "I will let you know who is the weakling." After saying that, Butcher roared, and a terrifying war bear appeared around him. After finding out Ghost Sword's true identity, Butcher did not dare to be careless. He immediately burned his bloodline power and transformed into his strongest beast soul form, greatly increasing his battle prowess and strength. Butcher slashed with his dragon-headed saber. Yi Chunfeng swung the 300,000 kilogram Sky Piercer and met the attack without showing any signs of weakness. Boom! When the 2 treasures collided, the explosive force caused cracks to appear in the extremely hard restrictive space. What great strength! After clashing head-on, Yi Chunfeng and Butcher had the same thought at the same time. They were both shocked by each other's physical strength. Despite their shock, the 2 of them did not slow down their attacks. With their treasures in hand, they continued to fight fiercely. The sound of metal clashing resounded throughout the heavens and earth. The 2 of them continued to unleash their physical strength, clashing fiercely again and again. They fought fiercely, using speed to fight speed and strength to fight strength. Endless flames bloomed in the void. With the two of them as the center, a large amount of space was distorted by the collision of their treasures. Yi Chunfeng and Butcher clashed head-on, while Qingu Qiu and Pu Jun's battle reached its climax. In order to defeat each other, Qingu Qiu and Pu Jun both transformed into their beast soul forms and attacked with all their might. The two of them unleashed their Dao intent to the extreme. The intense battle was too much for the eyes to take in. Myriad Dao swords. After fighting fiercely for more than an hour, Qingu Qiu was the first to attack. He pushed his 8th layer sword Dao to the extreme, and a large number of Dao swords broke out of his body. Like a rain of swords, they flew toward Pu Jun with overwhelming killing intent. In the face of Qingu Qiu's killing move, Pu Jun's body shone with boundless starlight. He quickly swung his meteor hammer like two dazzling meteors, shattering the Dao swords that were coming at him. Myriad Dao swords as one. Qingu Qiu soared into the sky, and the myriad Dao swords around his body quickly fused into a single Dao sword. It slashed through the void, and with terrifying power, it slashed toward Pu Jun, meteor overtaking moon. A large number of Dao inscriptions formed a peerless Dao sword slashed toward Pu Jun. Pu Jun immediately used his killing move. With his meteor hammer, he continuously shot out lifelike meteors that collided with the peerless Dao sword, blocking Qingu Qiu's attack. Pu Jun, you really didn't disappoint me. However, if you don't have any other trump cards, then the final victor will be me. Qingu Qiu said arrogantly as he continued to attack Pu Jun with the flying snow sword. Due to the fact that the two of them were too powerful, the destructive power of their attacks was too terrifying, and the restrictive space was destroyed beyond recognition. Dao Treasure, Purple Sun Bell. Seeing how terrifying Qingu Qiu was, Pu Jun's face turned solemn. He opened his mouth and spat out an ancient bell covered with ancient Dao inscriptions, which was flowing with purple flames. He used the bell to block the oncoming Dao swords. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The purple sun bell immediately let out a deafening chime when it was attacked by Qingu Qiu's Dao sword. The terrifying sound waves pierced Pu Jun's eardrums like countless silver needles, causing him to feel as if his head was being pricked by needles. Since Qingu Qiu's soul was injured, Pu Jun didn't waste this excellent opportunity. He quickly threw out his meteor hammer, and like two meteors, they shot toward Qingu Qiu's body with destructive power. Once Pu Jun's meteor hammer hit Qingu Qiu, he would be severely injured no matter how strong his physical body was. Devil's Puppet appear. At this critical moment, Qingu Qiu revealed his greatest trump card. He summoned a terrifying puppet that was suspected to be a level 6 combat beast emperor. It was filled with demonic aura and stood in front of him, forcefully blocking the meteor hammer's attack. Then, Qingu Qiu regained his senses and attacked Pu Jun fiercely with the devil's puppet. Under the devil's puppet's ferocious attacks, Pu Jun's attacks were constantly suppressed. He continuously activated the power of the purple sunbell, but he still couldn't block the devil's puppet's attacks. In the end, with the help of the devil's puppet, Qingu Qiu defeated Pu Jun after fighting for more than 2 hours. Mobile reading site, book address. To make it easier for you to read this book next time, you can click on the Save button at the bottom of the page to record this book. You will be able to read it the next time you open your bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 924. Demon Puppet. Qingu Qiu is from the True Demon clan. Upon seeing Qingu Qiu summon his devil puppet, Sha Bingyun, who was hiding in the shadows, guessed his true identity. Watermark advertisement test. However, because Xingluo Sky City was secretly working with the True Demon clan, Sha Bingyun did not show any malice toward Qingu Qiu. Instead, she showed hostility toward defeating armies, who had lost the battle. Judging from defeating armies' various techniques and his comprehension of the Star Dao will, She suspected that defeating armies was the same as Yi Chunfeng. They both came from the Xia clan. Blade of the Earth. Unable to suppress Yi Chunfeng with brute force, Butcher was shocked. He unleashed a powerful Tao will, and a terrifying Tao will of the earth surged out of his body, enveloping the entire space and causing it to tremble. 7-layered Tao will of the earth. Sensing Butcher's comprehension of the Tao will of the earth, Yi Chunfeng was not afraid at all. He pressed his hand down, and 77 Tao patterns of the heavens and earth appeared out of thin air. They gathered together to form a giant hand covered in Tao patterns. It carried an unparalleled pressure as it pressed down on Butcher's Tao will of the earth above his head. Without any suspense, the will of earth released by Ren Tu was directly crushed by the giant hand of heaven and earth. The powerful force caused Ren Tu's expression to change slightly. The 8th level will of Blade and 7th level will of Death gushed out of his body in succession, resisting the giant hand of heaven and earth that was pressing down. 5 elemental Tao will break. The moment Butcher released his 3 Tao wills to resist the giant hand, Yi Chunfeng deduced the 5 elemental Tao will of the 5 elemental Tao will to the extreme. It transformed into a giant hand of Tao will of the 5 elemental Tao will and slammed down. It directly broke Butcher's Tao will and forced him to retreat. Heavens, Butcher is being forced back. Is Ghost Sword going to create a miracle? Ghost Sword. The real Ghost Sword is probably dead. That person is a fake. It can't be. Who would be so bold as to impersonate Ghost Sword to participate in the interstellar field ranking competition? If I'm not mistaken, that person should be He Yen, the one who passed all the tests on the path of lightning. That heavy halberd is his symbol. It's him. In an instant, He Yan's name spread throughout the spectator stands. Furthermore, his battle record of breaking through the heavenly tribulation was exaggerated to be incomparably miraculous. Wild Wind Blade. Butcher took a deep breath and suppressed his surging chi and blood. Holding the dragon-headed saber, he pushed his attack speed to its limit. Like a sharp gust of wind, he attacked Yi Chunfeng with astonishing speed. Yi Chunfeng didn't retreat when he saw Butcher's saber light coming at him like a storm. Instead, he stimulated the power of his 5 acupoints and charged into the storm of saber light with his halberd in hand. Butcher unleashed his strongest strength. The might of the Gale Manic saber was too terrifying. Large amounts of ripples appeared in the space where the saber slashed out. The suffocating saber beams constantly suppressed Yi Chunfeng's attacks, forcing him to retreat. Counterattack. Butcher has started his counterattack. Can He Yen block such a terrifying Tao skill? Looking at the layers and layers of gale blades descending from the sky, the spectators could not help but feel a sense of helplessness. It was as if they were in the midst of the gale blades and could be torn apart at any time. Heavenly Demon Dance in all directions. With his attack suppressed, Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and forcefully used the supreme grade Tao skill that he had inherited from Demon Saint Cold Night. He quickly brandished the ancient halberd like a lone boat, launching a counterattack amidst the storm of attacks. Although Yi Chunfeng did not have a foundation in demonic arts and was unable to unleash the true charm and might of this move, the heavenly demon dance in all directions was still a supreme grade Tao skill. Yi Chunfeng deduced 3 great Tao intents, interweaving halberd shadows that danced in all directions. They were like mountains and rivers, boundless and endless, quickly breaking through Butcher's attacks. Dong, 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 dong. The sounds of the 2 treasures clashing rang out endlessly. They were like waves that reverberated through the restricted space. The terrifying strength caused cracks to appear in the tough spatial walls. Just as the battle between the 2 reached its climax, Yi Chunfeng's soul energy erupted, forming a terrifying dizziness. It ruthlessly bombarded Butcher's soul sea, causing him to feel dizzy. 40 million gene of strength and 3 great fused Tao intents erupted. Yi Chunfeng raised the ancient halberd that was shining with Tao light high up and ruthlessly slashed down. The halberd struck Butcher's purple battle armor and sent him flying. Hei Yin, you have truly infuriated me. I am going to tear you apart. Butcher could not accept the outcome of defeat. He roared furiously and used his final trump card. True barbarian body. Butcher's strong and stalwart body kept growing. The power in his body forcibly cracked the purple armor on his body. His physical strength increased from 15 million Jin to 60 million Jin. Hei Yin has forced Butcher to use his final trump card. I wonder if Butcher can turn the tide and defeat Hei Yin after transforming into the true barbarian body. Overlord's sword looked through the light wall and saw the changes in Butcher's body. He knew that the outcome of the match was about to be decided. I feel that Butcher has a high chance of losing. Although Butcher's strength would increase exponentially after transforming into the true barbarian body, for some reason, Hua Luoyu felt that Yi Chunfeng still had many trump cards that he had not used. He would probably have the last laugh. Sigh, although I am unwilling to admit it, Hei Yin has a higher chance of winning. Thinking about Yi Chunfeng's continuous miracles, Overlord's sword sighed softly. He did not want to see if Butcher could turn the tide. 60 million Jin of strength explode. Butcher, whose body had expanded by one size, roared and released an astonishing amount of power. He held the dragon-head broadsword in his hand and slashed at Yi Chunfeng with a force that could split heaven and earth. Dong! The two great treasures collided fiercely. The powerful energy rippled out in all directions like water. Dang dang! Facing Butcher's attack head-on, Yi Chunfeng's arm that was holding the ancient halberd trembled violently. A terrifying power surged into his body and forced him to retreat. What powerful strength! This Butcher is indeed worthy of being the third-ranked expert in the star field. He is indeed unique. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and suppressed his roiling blood and qi. He was somewhat affected by Butcher's power. After forcing Yi Chunfeng back with one strike, Butcher followed up with another attack. He held the dragon-head broadsword in his hand and fiercely slashed at Yi Chunfeng. Streaks of mercury-like broadsword light completely enveloped Yi Chunfeng, slaughtering the heavens 9 slashes. After transforming into the true barbarian body to reverse the situation, Butcher used his ultimate move, wanting to split Yi Chunfeng in half. At that moment, Butcher's aura soared to the extreme. His strength and Tao intent all erupted. With a force that could split heaven and earth, he fiercely slashed out 9 times. Each slash was fatal and posed a great threat to Yi Chunfeng. Heavenly demon dance in all directions. Yi Chunfeng took a deep breath and brandished the ancient halberd in his hand. He stirred up chaos in the void and collided with Butcher's, slaughtering the heavens 9 slashes. Boom boom boom! The slaughtering the heavens 9 slashes and the heavenly demon dance in all directions collided. It was as if 2 meteorites had collided, shaking heaven and earth. The terrifying power instantly swallowed Yi Chunfeng and Butcher. It soared into the sky. The surging power of the collision shook the space restriction until it was full of crisscrossing cracks. When the 2 terrifying forces became more and more intense, 2 figures flew out of the violent storm. After a head-on collision, both Yi Chunfeng and Butcher were injured. However, Yi Chunfeng's body was too strong. It was comparable to a mid-grade Tao artifact. Therefore, in the head-on collision, Yi Chunfeng's injuries were obviously lighter than Butcher's. Mobile reading home, book address. To make it easier for you to read next time, you can click on the Save button at the bottom to record this reading record. You will see it the next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 925. Hei Yin, you are too shocking. However, you are not as strong as me, so you are destined to lose. Watermark advertisement test. Watermark advertisement test. Butcher wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and glared at Yi Chunfeng fiercely. He erupted with 60 million gene of strength and slashed with the dragon-head saber, not giving Yi Chunfeng a chance to breathe. It's too early to talk about victory and defeat. Divine Demon Bloodline Ignite. Butcher's strength was too terrifying. Yi Chunfeng had no choice but to ignite his Divine Demon Bloodline to suppress him. When the demonic god bloodline was ignited, Yi Chunfeng's body turned scarlet red. His body was as strong as steel, and his strength increased exponentially. He broke through 100 million gene, reaching 140 million gene. He was more than twice as strong as Butcher. Bang! The two treasures continued to clash, but this time it was Butcher who was pushed back. Yi Chunfeng's heavenly halberd exploded with 140 million gene of strength, causing him to lose control of his body. What? How can you be so strong? Butcher's eyes widened as he felt his arm go numb from the dragon-head saber. He couldn't believe that Yi Chunfeng's strength had surpassed his. Yi Chunfeng didn't reply to Butcher. He continued to attack Butcher with the halberd in his hand, bringing with him a suffocating power. In order to prevent Butcher from dodging, he cast a stun spell on Butcher when he attacked. Although Butcher also had a soul defense treasure, he still felt dizzy after being attacked by Yi Chunfeng's vertigo art. His reaction speed slowed, and he couldn't dodge Yi Chunfeng's heavenly halberd. He could only use the dragon-head saber to meet the attack head-on. Bang! The heavenly halberd exploded with 100 million gene of strength, knocking away the dragon-head saber. The terrifying power caused Butcher's arm to split open. Large amounts of blood flowed out, and his body was pushed back uncontrollably. Heavens, am I seeing things? Butcher actually lost to He Yen in a contest of strength. How can He Yen be so strong? As expected of the person who passed all the tests of the heavenly tribulation, He Yen is too abnormal. It seems that he has a high chance of defeating Butcher and competing with Qiangu Qiu for the title of the strongest person in the star field. When the spectators saw Butcher being injured by Yi Chunfeng's brute strength, a commotion broke out in the spectator stands. Even Qiangu Qiu, who had just defeating armies, revealed a hint of surprise. No, I will never lose to you. The incredibly ambitious and arrogant Butcher could not accept the fact that he had lost to Yi Chunfeng. Like a wounded beast, he let out a heaven-shaking roar. He did not hesitate to burn all the blood and qi in his body to increase his strength even further. This was his final gamble. Wild Wind Blade. With his strength skyrocketing to its limits, Butcher rapidly slashed out with his dragon-headed saber, sweeping towards Yi Chunfeng like a storm. Cracks appeared in the chaotic void under the barrage of saber shadows. Breaking the Tao with brute strength, Yi Chunfeng suddenly took a step forward. His physical strength reached its peak in an instant. He raised his Fangtian halberd high up and slashed through the air like a boundless bolt of lightning. It carried a ferocious gale and ruthlessly smashed into the Wild Wind Blade. Although Butcher's Tao skill was terrifyingly powerful, enough to severely injure a level 4 Beast Emperor expert, Yi Chunfeng's explosive strength was close to 140 million. He had completely activated the attack of the Sky Piercer Halberd, a mid-grade Tao artifact. In addition to the 150,000 kilograms of weight, this attack was like a mountain smashing into the Wild Gale Blade. Rumble! A series of low explosions resounded. Butcher's Wild Wind Blade was shattered by Yi Chunfeng's halberd. The violent energy was like a wild horse, bombarding Butcher, whose expression changed slightly as he put all his strength into defense. Pooh! Butcher, who couldn't dodge in time, was sent flying by Yi Chunfeng's halberd. A large amount of blood spurted out from his mouth and splattered on the ground, staining it with blood. Butcher is about to lose. Be it Tao intent or strength, he is completely restrained by He Yen. He should be powerless to reverse the situation. Hua Luoyu shook her head and sighed as she looked at the severely injured Butcher, whose chest was badly mutilated and blood was constantly spurting out of his mouth. Yes, Butcher's talent is monstrous. However, compared to He Yen, there is still a huge gap. By the way, Luoyu, do you think He Yen is the same person as the freak with the blood dragon spirit beast we encountered in the ancient herb garden? Overlord Sword stared at Yi Chunfeng and asked softly. This, Hua Luoyu raised her eyebrows. She tried hard to recall the process of Yi Chunfeng's suppressing Butcher with brute strength. She vaguely felt a sense of familiarity as her beautiful eyes widened. Butcher, you have lost. Yi Chunfeng looked at Butcher, who was covered in blood, and said emotionlessly. I haven't lost. The final victor will definitely be me. Butcher spat out a mouthful of blood and merged it with the dragon-head saber in his hand. He leaped up and appeared in midair. He brandished the dragon-head saber and slashed at Yi Chunfeng, slaughtering the heavens 9 slashes. On the brink of despair, the heavily injured Butcher stimulated his potential. Like a blood-soaked god of war, he slashed out 9 times in a row with the power to destroy everything and annihilate the heavens as he slashed at Yi Chunfeng. Heavenly Tao pattern, merge. Sensing the terror of Butcher's attack, Yi Chunfeng immediately merged 30 heavenly Tao patterns into the Sky Piercer halberd, activating all the offensive array patterns in the halberd. Once again, he slashed out with a mountain-like attack that collided with Butcher's, slaughtering the heavens 9 slashes. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out as a terrifying explosive force surged out from the point of contact between the two attacks. The chaotic space was unable to withstand the pressure as cracking sounds continuously rang out. Cracks spread out like a spider web. Through the light barrier, the spectators who witnessed the intense battle between the two could not help but gasp. The terrifying scene of the intense battle between the two was deeply imprinted in the minds of the spectators, unable to be erased. Thump! Thump! After taking Butcher's attack head-on, Yi Chunfeng was forced to take 3 steps back. His arms, which were comparable to a mid-grade Tao artifact, were severely numb. All the blood and qi in his body surged from the impact. As for Butcher, he was in an even worse state. He was sent flying by the terrifying energy and ruthlessly slammed into the edge of the 7th floor. The blood that spurted out from his body dyed him red. Just as Butcher used his incomparably powerful will to force himself to stand up, his pupils constricted and his expression changed drastically. Yi Chunfeng threw the Sky Piercer halberd with all his might. It pierced through the violent energy and shot towards Butcher like a hot knife through butter. Boom! Butcher, who was heavily injured and unable to dodge, defended with all his might. However, he was unable to dissolve the 140 million kilograms of force contained in the Sky Piercer halberd. He spat out another mouthful of blood and fell from the 7th floor. He had tragically lost this battle of strength. After forcefully defeating Butcher, hundreds of strands of pure energy of heaven and earth surged out from the 7th floor of the heaven staircase. They surged from all directions and entered Yi Chunfeng's body, rapidly increasing his strength. After about an incense stick's worth of time, Yi Chunfeng had completely refined the energy of heaven and earth that had entered his body. He had basically recovered from his injuries and exhausted soul power. He summoned the Sky Piercer halberd back and stepped through the void toward the 8th floor of the heaven staircase. The 2 brightest pearls of the star field were about to engage in a battle of the pinnacle. The atmosphere in the spectator stands became heated and excited. Everyone wanted to know who would have the last laugh between Yi Chunfeng and Qianguqiu, stand on the 9th floor of the heaven staircase and look down on all heroes. Mobile reading site, book address. To make it easier for you to read this book next time, you can click on the Save button at the bottom to record this book. You will be able to see it the next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support. Chapter 926. Should I call you He Yen or the Sword God? Qianguqiu placed his hands behind his back as he looked at Yi Chunfeng, who was standing proudly with an aura that could swallow mountains and rivers. He revealed a cold smile as he spoke in a sharp voice. Watermark advertisement test. Watermark advertisement test. A name is just a code name. You can call me whatever you want, Yi Chunfeng said arrogantly. Ha ha ha, to be honest, I never thought that I would have to fight you in the star field ranking competition. Qinguqiu laughed and said arrogantly, however, if I defeat you, I will gain both fame and fortune and my name will go down in history. You can be arrogant after you defeat me. Yi Chunfeng's expression was calm as he looked at the arrogant Qinguqiu. He was neither happy nor sad. Do you really think that you can shake my position just because you defeated Rintu? Defeating Rintu won't be as troublesome as you, Qinguqiu said calmly. His voice was filled with confidence. How much strength do you think I used to defeat Rintu? Yi Chunfeng asked. Hey Yen, I am getting more and more interested in you. I hope you will not disappoint me. Qinguqiu was stunned for a moment before he smiled. His fighting spirit rose steadily as his invincible battle force accumulated rapidly. Ordinary people wouldn't have the courage to fight Qinguqiu when they sensed his battle intent, but Yi Chunfeng wasn't affected at all. His aura changed, and it was as if a divine sword had descended from the heavens, cutting through Qinguqiu's aura. Hey Yen, since you dare to call yourself the sword god, you must have cultivated the sword principle well. Let's compete and see who has a deeper understanding of the sword principle is more qualified to have this title. As he spoke, Qinguqiu summoned the flying snow sword, a middle-grade Dao weapon, and his aura became even sharper. As you wish. Yi Chunfeng kept his halberd in his universe mirror and summoned the middle-grade Dao weapon, the Emperor Sky Sword. The Emperor Heaven Sword and the Flying Snow Sword were both middle-grade Dao treasures. However, the Emperor Heaven Sword had an artifact spirit. Therefore, regardless of quality, potential, or offensive power, the Emperor Heaven Sword was superior. You actually have two mid-grade Dao artifacts. Sensing the quality of the Emperor Heaven Sword, Qinguqiu revealed a look of shock. He was shocked that Yi Chunfeng had a deeper foundation than him. Is a mid-grade Dao tool very precious? The corners of Yi Chunfeng's mouth curled up slightly as he said coldly and arrogantly. With a supreme-grade sacred treasure, a mid-grade Dao artifact was indeed nothing in Yi Chunfeng's eyes. Hey Yen, I will let you know that all your arrogance is just a joke. Qinguqiu's face darkened, and he didn't waste any more words. The flying snow sword in his hand flashed and stabbed towards Yi Chunfeng. Qinguqiu had pushed his sword Dao intent and wind Dao intent to their limit. His sword was as fast as lightning, and it was difficult for the naked eye to catch a glimpse of it. Yi Chunfeng's body was pierced through by Qinguqiu's sword. In a flash, Qinguqiu's sword pierced through Yi Chunfeng's body. Speed afterimage. After piercing through Yi Chunfeng's body, Qinguqiu wasn't happy. Instead, he was shocked because he realized that his sword had only pierced through Yi Chunfeng's afterimage. He hadn't injured his body at all. After his attack failed, Qinguqiu instinctively tried to dodge. However, in the instant that he tried to dodge, Yi Chunfeng took a step forward. A profound sword diagram appeared beneath his feet, and a large number of sword Dao inscriptions shot out like a rain of swords, attacking Qinguqiu. A series of metal clanging sounds rang out as Qinguqiu's flying snow sword moved quickly, creating a large number of sword inscriptions to block the attack of the sword step. Stun art. The sword steps were forcefully neutralized by Qinguqiu. Yi Chunfeng's soul power erupted, forming a powerful stun power that blasted into Qinguqiu's soul, causing him to feel slightly dizzy. As soon as Qinguqiu felt dizzy, he immediately bit the tip of his tongue and regained consciousness. Then, he stabbed out with his sword of wind and thunder to neutralize Yi Chunfeng's attacks. Qinguqiu also has a soul defense treasure. The reason why Qinguqiu was able to regain consciousness so quickly was not only because of his strong willpower, but also because of the soul defense treasure hidden in his soul sea that countered the stun art. Instant kill sword. Yi Chunfeng's body moved, and he instantly merged with the Emperor's sky sword. Then, like a flash of light, he stabbed towards Qinguqiu. However, Qinguqiu didn't back down either, and he retaliated with all his might with his flying snow sword, which clashed with Yi Qinfeng's instant kill strike. Vast amounts of sword Dao power clashed violently, and the light of Dao intent radiated from the clash. Whoosh whoosh. After clashing head-on, Yi Qinfeng and Qinguqiu attacked each other with their swords at almost the same time. Both Yi Qinfeng and Qinguqiu increased their attack speed to the maximum. The sword rays were so fast that the spectators couldn't even see their trajectories. The two of them used their sword Dao to deduce their sword Dao. In an extremely short period of time, the 8th floor of the heaven stair was filled with afterimages of the two of them. In the end, Yi Qinfeng and Qinguqiu's afterimages had almost disappeared. The spectators on the spectators' stand could only see streaks of sword rays flashing across the sky and colliding fiercely. Sword Dao intent, 9th heaven. After exchanging thousands of blows, Yi Qinfeng suddenly increased the power of his sword Dao. He raised his sword Dao intent to the 9th heaven realm and broke Qinguqiu's attack with a single strike, forcing him to retreat. A large amount of blood flowed out from the sword wound on his chest, dyeing his clothes red. Qinguqiu is injured. Not only is He Yan powerful, but he also has a deep understanding of the sword Dao. When did our Xingluo continent give birth to such a monster? Yeah, He Yan's strength is beyond our expectations. As expected of a genius comparable to the Star Emperor. If he is given enough time, our Xingluo continent might really have a second Star Emperor. After witnessing Qinguqiu being injured by Yi Qinfeng, the spectators on the spectators' stand gasped once again. Pejun, who do you think will have the last laugh between Qinguqiu and He Yan? Yu Feng, who had lost to Yi Qinfeng, came to Pejun's side and asked softly. In terms of talent and strength, I feel that He Yan should be stronger. However, Qinguqiu's demon puppet is extremely terrifying. It is equivalent to a Class 6 combat beast emperor. If He Yan doesn't have a way to counter the demon puppet, he will most likely lose. Pejun's strength was on par with Qinguqiu, and the reason why Pejun lost to Qinguqiu was because of the demon puppet. Ninefold sword Dao. Qinguqiu looked at the sword wound on his chest with a solemn expression. It could be said that the ninefold sword Dao was something that he had always dreamed of. However, he had never thought that Yi Qinfeng would be able to comprehend it. This made him feel a sense of danger. Flying immortal sword. While Qinguqiu was still in shock, 90 sword Dao patterns surged out of Yi Qinfeng's body and merged with the Emperor Heaven sword. With a thrust of the sword, a dazzling light sword shot out. It was as if a sword had come from outer space, piercing through space and crashing into Qinguqiu like a meteor. The shocking sword Dao attack forced Qinguqiu back once again, causing the blood in his body to churn violently. Sword Dao formation. After being forced back by Yi Qinfeng once again, Qinguqiu summoned 16 pseudo-Dao artifact light swords. They revolved above his head and formed a powerful sword formation. After witnessing Yi Qinfeng's comprehension of the sword Dao, Qinguqiu quickly changed his strategy and used the sword formation to defend against his opponent. Sword formation? I didn't expect you to have such a trick up your sleeve. However, it's useless. Looking at the sword formation above Qinguqiu's head, Yi Qinfeng's eyes shone brighter than the stars. His body flashed, and he charged forward fearlessly with the Emperor Heaven's sword in his hand. In a battle of the pinnacle, the brave would win. Mobile reading website, book address. To make it easier for you to read this book next time, you can click on the save button at the bottom to record this book. You will be able to see it the next time you open your bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Thank you for your support.